It's the intergalactic soul, the honorable brother, the revolutionary yourself, Darius Lockhart, and I'm here to tell you to watch Powerbombshells every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. That's right, every Sunday at 1 p.m., and that's on time, every time, because when we stand together, what time is it? That's right, it's nation time.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 128 of Powerbombshells. I am Sam and that is Mel, and we are just two broads talking about the wrestling that we like and that we watch.
That is us. What is shaking bacon?
Oh no. Apparently Nikki is the only one in the chat because she said not even Daza or Brad help her here to start the show. She's going to have to do it all by herself.
Well, I mean, this is why Nikki is one of the real heroes in our
She is.
And
if
chat. If we
had been like a minute or two later, she would have had to run the show all by herself.
Yeah, thank goodness I have the power.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Detroit hat because, as I was telling you just a second ago, I got an email blast from AEW because I'm signed up for all their stuff, and they are invading the Midwest, which means coming to Milwaukee, Toledo, Ohio, Chicago, in the Chicagoland area twice.
Of course, can't leave Chicago out.
But somehow, mysteriously, right smack dab in the middle of the Midwest is this place called Michigan.
Never
and they
heard of
completely avoided it. It has the most coastline in North America.
That's probably a fact that Tony Khan does not know.
Does he not know that Detroit and that Michigan is in the Midwest? I mean, he's not
apparently.
It's weird that they're not even like coming to Grand Rapids or something. Like they're not coming to Michigan at all. I can't decide if, I think I tweeted this last night, is that he's sitting on Motor City and waiting to roll out a Detroit date for that, knowing full well that, I mean, that's 100% guaranteed pop no matter what.
Oh,
not that they're not, that you can roll them out. I mean,
sure, but
that you can roll Motor City out on any AEW show anytime.
Somebody tried to tell me the other day, because I quote tweeted something Daily DDT posted, and I was talking about how they need to book their tag team division like they're trying to recruit Motor City Machine Guns. Somebody responded to me who doesn't follow me and says, I don't think that they're needle movers. You think one of the greatest tag teams of their generation and the whole reason the Young Bucks are on TV? Sure, maybe they're not needle movers in the fact that they'll pop 1 million viewers, but what they would do for that division is insane. And I was like, I'm not even going to respond to this. I went to Slack and complained there.
That's just silly. That person is not a serious person.
And I was like, who cares if they move the needle as far as ratings? I'm watching for matches. I've said this 1 million times. I don't give a shit about the ratings. The ratings do not dictate what I do and do not watch. They don't, a number of streams does not dictate what music I listen to. And I think most people, it doesn't dictate anything for them other than bots on the internet who want to, or just the tribalists.
I mean, I'm an econ nerd, so I do follow it in my, like, on a minor level. The biggest thing with ratings is just, for me, is always about the product being continuing to be successful. And that's the only time when I'm thinking about or talking about a rating situation, for me, it has everything to do with my product is or isn't healthy right now. Like, it's not like I'm breaking down the P19 to 34 and the average over last year's. I just can't. That's okay. There's plenty of people, like, that's what the newsletter's for. That's what Paul's, like, Paul's got a global spreadsheet.
That's their entire focus. That's one thing. Or if that's what they get paid to do, then that's one thing. But a generic fan doesn't need, just a regular fan who's sitting around every week does not need, I mean,
they don't pay attention to that at all.
Yeah. And why should they? They don't do it with any other. People don't really do it with, they don't really do that with baseball. I don't see people doing it with football. I don't see them doing it with any other sport. And be like, oh, the NBA is tanking in the ratings today. Let me go see why. Oh, it must be because of the Olympics.
Wrestling is like a whole, because it exists just like with everything, it exists in such a weird space of its own. It's entertainment, but it's sport.
Right.
So what? And I mean, the biggest, we'll talk about AEW later as we get along here, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, the only thing for me is like, is my product successful? Are they going to keep it on the air? Awesome. Then I'm going to keep watching it. And I don't see how.
I mean, I've said it a million times.
How,
TNA was supposed to go out of business 48 times over the last 28 years, and they're still here.
And beyond that, though, if they're not needle movers, it's been reported that the WWE is actively trying to recruit them just as much as Tony is. So if they're not needle movers, why does WWE want them?
Right, because they won't. I mean, the argument is they don't want AEW to have them, but still, your point still stands.
There's no way that they're gonna, if those guys sign the kind of contract they're not gonna use them on the TVs.
Right.
That's just silly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just silly. And I don't care if they're gonna, like, if Triple H is gonna actually sign guys their size doing their thing,
right?
And he's really like it's so funny because we're gonna talk about it. So John went to an OTT show yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
The
anniversary show is what's coming up, right?
Yeah, and they're booking JD Vance and Finn Balor on
JD McDonough.
JD Vance.
However, we will sidetrack that and just remember JD McDonough was named in Speaking Out. Just want to remind everybody of that because.
No, I mean absolutely, please.
But yes.
But it was very interesting to me that because he sent me a screenshot and he's like, they're letting this happen, and I was like, dang, like
yeah.
And then of course we talked about the fact that the weebs that we are, we would he was like, but I would of course be talking if I would want him to sign as Prince Devitt, and I was like, duh.
For one night only, please be Prince Devitt.
Can you be Prince Devitt for just a second here? Thank you.
just for tonight, just for the 10th anniversary show.
Surprise. I was like, are they really like they're letting two pretty, I mean, and they're pretty, I mean, again,
well, they're the current tag team champions on Raw.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So they're going to be coming in for a tag match. Then I would have
probably so.
I mean, they have like the OTT has a few now. I mean, one of the teams
seems
that
like
we saw. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it seems like indie promotions are about the only promotions that give a shit about tag team wrestling anymore.
Yeah, that is so true. One of my favorite tag teams right now, the Dub Club, and I'm enjoying like. I actually wore my "This is the worst town I've ever been in" shirt today because I was missing old school AEW tag. I was like, this was a tag team, man. Like, and then I was like, these effing guys were, and I'm like, no, wait, those effing guys are in CCW.
There you go. but then really, that also reminds me,
Frankie Kazarian, Christopher Daniels, Scorpio Sky, like the first champions, like I don't know, it made me feel nostalgic today. I was just like, I miss this.
I mean, I'm wearing a Johnny Gargano shirt because DIY, and I wore my Johnny Gargano shirt last week too, my other one, because of what they're doing to them. And
how can
and I'm just irritated about tag team wrestling in general, which we talked about.
Yeah,
like 3 weeks in a row now, and we're going to talk about it some more when we get to some other topics. But
I think it's like relevant with the Motor City thing because trying to like do stuff with. So is WWE doing tag team wrestling right now? Are they doing anything with it really, or are they still doing the same? It's pretty status quo over there, right?
No, it's the same shit. They don't like I said last week, like DIY held the tag team titles for less than an entire moon cycle, 28 days. Then Friday night, they put the titles on Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga, obviously, because Roman Reigns is back. They're building the whole bloodline thing. So those titles are going to probably just stay somewhere in the bloodline for the foreseeable future. Like, I just don't see anybody else getting them for a very long time. So they generally in most wrestling business and promotions, especially in WWE, the loser automatically gets an automatic rematch. Right. Well, not DIY. They had to wrestle in a match to get into a number one contenders match. So they wrestled pretty deadly but the match was actually really good. But Pretty Deadly never gets used. So, and I said on the article that I was writing, I was like, this is like,
remind me who Pretty Deadly are.
They're trying to show you that, we actually have some tag team deaths when they really don't. So, like, the first match was Street Profits versus A-Town Down Under, which is Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, that's who DIY took the titles from. Street Profits haven't had titles in 3 years, which is crazy. Somebody said that
I saw them live at Evolve. Like, they were those two.
I've seen them in NXT live, and I've seen them in Evolve. And they were actually in Evolve, and they were singles wrestlers. They were doing singles wrestling that night, but they're incredible. And somebody pointed out that Street Profits, when the last time they lost the titles, they dropped them to Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. That's how long it's been since they've had titles.
Wow.
I had to read it 3 times. I was like, this doesn't seem real.
Like, I was watching WWE. That's how long.
Right.
Like, I mean, consistently watching it.
Yeah. So Street Profits.
And that's been a while.
So Street Profits won, DIY won. So next week they will wrestle, and the winner of that match will become the number 1 contenders. But Jacob Fatu is injured somewhat. Like, some of it seemed like it was storyline, but he was seen wearing a boot afterwards, and he was not on the show Friday, but that might just also be selling stuff as well. So, but Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa were the ones carrying the titles that still had the DIY plates on them on Friday. So I don't know what they're doing. So they're pretending they have a tag team division, but they really don't. Raw does not have one. I mean, Awesome Truth won the titles at WrestleMania and held them for like 4 months and then dropped them to Finn and JD. And then they had to bring A-Town Down Under to Raw to wrestle on Monday because, like, they have no tag team division. And then NXT, I don't know, because I don't watch consistently enough. I don't know that theirs is much better. Like, I knew who their champions are. I know they just brought Cedric and Ashanti just moved down to NXT like 3 weeks ago. So they do have that. They do have I think they have more tag teams in NXT than they do the main roster. But yeah, and then of course, let's not even get started on the women's tag teams.
I know they're not doing anything with the women's tag teams. I mean, I can't. It's like, as much as the argument is out there, and I mean, Bob is a big, strong advocate of having women's tag team belts and the whole division and the whole thing in AEW. He's been banging that drum forever. We don't argue about it. I just, like, I want to wait until, like, for me, I want to wait until there's a consistency with the women's where it stays the way it is.
Exactly what I said yesterday to somebody. Or Friday.
I want to see what's happening now stay happening for a good long time. Right. Then we start talking seriously about women's belts.
Because otherwise we're going to have WWE all over again. Right. With the women.
It's just going to be the WWE thing.
I mean, that's, of course, that's not ever, all of the reasons why Mercedes left, but it was a big part of why she left was because of how they treated the women's tag team titles, and they cannot repeat that.
Well, they finally get them rolled out, and it was the most embarrassing thing ever. They give them to the icon.
It's still a mess.
I don't even watch. That's still a thorn in my side. I'm just like,
yeah.
I mean, those are the kinds of things that sent me away, that sent me packing from the product.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that still really irritate me when I watch their product, and I was like
I would have rather you guys had never actually rolled them out if that's what you were going to do, because you immediately set the tone that you were going to be, that they were. And
now they're introducing, so you know how they have the men's speed title, which is basically because Twitter's paying them. Yeah. Well, now they're rolling out a women's one. They're really, and my editor was like, what's the difference between this and like the regular women's matches? Like, I mean, because they're granted, like, the speed matches are a 3-minute time limit. He's like, what's the difference? And so, and my friend, one of my friends, I retweeted it, and he was like, close enough. Welcome back, Divas title.
Oh, geez. Oh, God.
Basically what it is.
Oh, that's pretty much, I mean, that's pretty dead on.
Because they're going to get 3 minutes regardless, because that's what Twitter pays them for. They pay them for a 3-minute match. They've been doing it with the men for a couple months now. And so, and now. Oh, Lady B, we are definitely going to talk about that. that is definitely a topic about the Bucks not wrestling on TV. We're definitely have a lot to say about it. And that's what I was trying. But yes, Miko.
I mean, it kind of is like to the point of the tag team wrestling situation. Like where
it will, and it will lead to some other, because I have some thoughts about just all of it. But yes, I will. We'll get to it. Believe me. David is with us today. He hasn't been able to catch us in a bit. He's usually working on Sundays. I'm glad that you were able to make it today. And Eddie is here too. And Daza said sorry he was late. He was in court trying to gain an injunction to prevent Brian Alvarez entry into the UK. Well, you got 14 days. So
I had a picture sent to me from a friend. MJF today is he's wrestling in Rev Pro. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this picture, but I'm going to do this because it's hilarious. Because so he's parading around the streets of London today in this right here, if you can see.
I can see an American flag, and that's about it.
He's got an American flag cape on.
Of course he does.
So he's walking the streets of London with an American flag cape.
Yeah, I saw something he tweeted
before the Rev Pro show, and I was like, all right, that's pretty funny. Because it made me remember that, because when Bob and I were at the OTT show that we saw, we jokingly tried to start a USA chant because we knew it would not get over, of course, because we were goofing off with a bunch of people, because we were all a bunch of indie wrestling fans having fun. And
of course.
So it was hilarious. And so it kind of like, it struck me like, where I was like, he knows exactly what he's doing. And
yeah,
I'm like,
he definitely does.
I was saying this right before, it's kind of genius. He's going to get like, it's going to be heel heat, but it's going to be nuclear heel heat.
Yeah.
It's going to be like if he was performing Hamilton at Wembley. I mean,
he's apparently towing the lines with some things that he has said, and I have not seen them directly, but I've seen tweets about them, and so he's already kind of not making himself. Yeah, he's not endearing himself well, which on the one hand, I guess that's the point of the character, but on the other hand, it's also like you have to be very careful with that, where people can't, because some people are not able to tell apart the character from the person in this situation, and he is apparently saying some kind of just I don't know, from what I've heard of, I guess it's like some borderline racist things. Which I'm not surprised with this character, but on the other hand, like there's a very fine line with that, and we know he likes to go for low hanging heat as it is. I mean, low hanging fruit as it is, and so I'm a little worried about that.
Yeah, with the
which is what I thought when I first saw the character. I was like, this is not going to go well.
Maybe with the political climate being what it is, he should walk up.
Well, and that's lightly. Part of it, not just the political.
That's the only thing I would be the biggest concern, like
climate in the UK right now, because of what happened a few weeks. There's just some very. I don't even know the word that I want to use here, but yeah, it's just he needs to be very careful with what he says.
We are living in a very hot political time. And that's just
said. Someone tell MJF that people in the UK don't know or care about the Boston Tea Party. What about the Boston Knee Party? Are they aware of Eddie Edwards? His Boston Knee Party. Are they aware of that?
That's probably better. It's so funny because the Boston Tea Party was
a bit Daza. There are a little sense over there right now.
Everyone, and I mean, especially, I mean, there are tragedies and all kinds. I mean, it's a rough time on the globe right now, and the West has all kinds of problems going on, and we're obviously not going to do with any of that because we are all inundated with. I do have to say that just real quickly is like, I live in a swing state, and it's a battleground swing state, and oh my effing God, right now, I am like, literally, I've thought that drug companies and insurance companies showed a buttload of ads. Like, it is just nonstop here.
Mm-hmm. That's how it was here.
I'm getting to the point where like I can't watch the ads. I have to like mute the ads or whatever.
Oh, we do. We've already
it's just stressing me out.
We've been muting a lot too. That's because North Carolina is a big state for this stuff, especially this year. And not only that, but with like we have a really huge governor. Our governor is ending his his term is coming up, and so one of the people running for governor is probably one of the absolute worst human beings ever.
One of the batshit ones.
Oh yeah, I mean he's part of the. I don't want to get into all of that, but yes, it's
the batshit one. He's one of the batshit ones. It's fine.
He's an awful person, and
I'm worried about that. I'm
so
glad
the ads are insane here too. It's constant, like no matter what you're watching, like even just watching, like just trying to watch.
I see it on our YouTube stream, ironically, because
I know I see them too, and I can't. Yeah, I see them too, and we apologize if you're watching. We don't control what ads come up, so we apologize if you get stuck with political ads too, because they're a pain in the ass.
I might just turn my VPN on to like Canada or something until the end of
There you go. That might not be a bad idea.
Maybe they won't show me, because it obviously is showing me the things because I'm dinging in Michigan, so it's the battleground thing.
It's the same thing here. It's the same thing here. Being in North Carolina.
Please, I do want to. Some countries limit the time.
We will completely change topics here because I want to.
Yes, please.
I saw Lady B's response, and now she's here in the comments and saying that she politely yelled at me on Twitter. She did for posting a Beast Mortos thirst trap, and I am unwell. So that's what spurred the tweet yesterday, because I saw the picture. Yeah, because he does that frequently. Well, he posts thirst traps, and he covers his face because obviously he's masked, so he'll put an emoji on. He has long dark hair. He has facial hair, and so somebody quote tweeted it and called him the Tri-Bull Chief, but Tribull. And so I tweeted that yesterday because I thought it was funny. I don't know why that tweet has taken off. Like the last time I saw it, it had like 500 likes on it.
Oh my gosh, Sam! Now they're gonna think that you really are in it to get with the wrestlers.
But I didn't tweet it with the picture.
Tri-Bull Chief is hilarious. I'm with you. It is,
and so I didn't tweet it with the image that it came from, but then somebody this morning quote tweeted me with that picture, so then I quote tweeted it and said acknowledge him, and instead of doing the finger I did the bullhorns, which I know is technically Roosh, but I was like, don't want the Roman fans to get mad at me, because I also acknowledge Roman Reigns as my original tribal chief as well. But
I mean, if something's good, it's just good. I mean, it is. Like some of that storyline was literally interesting to me. I mean, I was actually engaged in it when I was watching last year.
And it still has been interesting. It lagged a little bit, but it's gotten, even prior to Roman getting there, it was starting to pick up. And now we're starting to see some other little details that they're doing with Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa, that maybe they're planting some seeds with Tama Tonga, which will be interesting. And so this storyline is definitely going to ramp up again now that Roman is back. And the theory is that Survivor Series is going to be between New Bloodline and Old Bloodline. So, and they had Sammy and Jay randomly. They had a tag team match a few weeks ago. So that seems to be kind of bringing that, because they hadn't when they had that tag team match a few weeks ago, they hadn't wrestled since last year. And so it was just kind of not technically out of nowhere, because we all knew that Roman was probably coming back at SummerSlam, but it's definitely setting the stage for like that type of stuff. And then because Jay and Sammy are on Raw and everybody else is on SmackDown. And so it sounds like they're probably going to make their way over there at some point. So it's definitely going to be picking up soon, I think. And then I assume Hikuleo will be there at some point. I missed the reference, but apparently there was a reference made on Friday that kind of seemed to hint at Hikuleo. So it sounds like he's on his way.
I saw people tweetering about it. So I know it was on social that he was around. Like there were jokes and some expectation of him showing up at some point here. I mean, I don't want to be like a jerk or anything, but like at this point, they have almost the entire nation of Samoa in their stable, right? It's because there's it's such a tiny little island.
They do acknowledge at least that Tama Tonga and Tagaloa are that they are Tongan and not Samoan.
Not Samoan. That's nice.
They definitely made sure to, because we weren't sure at first. We were like, whoa, are they just gonna blanket them all
Skip
in. But
right
no,
over that.
they,
Yeah.
but no, they haven't. They did, like, when they first came in, they acknowledged, like, just like like how the family relationship and dynamics, when they were talking about them being Tongan and stuff like that. So they have.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I was like, at least they're doing that. I appreciate.
That's like the most education that their audience is like probably getting at this point. I'm sorry, I don't mean to stereotype. That's wrong. That was wrong, and I'm sorry. Because I do the very intelligent people over at the Rap who I do enjoy actually are smart wrestling fans too.
They are. I do. We love Keela.
It's bless
here.
their hearts for what they do, because I mean they're holding it to account, and
they do.
They
do. They enjoy the product, but then when there are things they don't enjoy, they are quick to tell you, or they're quick to call them out, which I really appreciate. They are.
Well, I just like their objectivity about it. They know that they love it, but they also, it's just like with the AEW or the New Japan or anything that we want to do is like, we're not complaining for complaining's sake. We're complaining because, or we're saying we need you to be good. We need you to do.
If I'm going to invest in you on a weekly basis, then I want you to do well, which is
exactly
again when we get into the tag team conversation in a little bit.
First, we need to bring up.
We
need to keep it in the consciousness as we talked about.
We do. So we're going to start off with the not as much fun stuff. This one isn't too bad. But because we do try to keep, we do keep the Janelle Grant situation. We talk about it because there's nothing to shy away from, and more people should be talking about it. It's not going to go away, no matter how much they want it to. And so a couple of weeks ago, Vince McMahon's team filed a motion to enforce the stay order in his lawsuit with Janelle, because she filed a discovery she's just trying to get her medical records, because she has incomplete records from the supplements that she was given along with the IV drip she was receiving. She has said that when she questioned what it was, the doctor was like, well, if you can't trust me, we have bigger issues, and would just like blow her off every time she tried to ask. And so she has a discovery trying to figure that out. Well, Vince's team is like, well, the order is the lawsuit's on a stay, so you can't do that, which is incorrect. So Judge Jeffrey Meyer denied Vince McMahon's motion to enforce the stay order in his lawsuit. It says that the lawsuit was stayed pending the DOJ investigation, but she's still able to file a discovery to get those records. So the judge says the court denies defendant McMahon's motion to enforce the court stay order for failure to show that there has been a violation of the court stay order. The filing reasoned that the federal court does not interpret the stay order as applicable in Grant's state court proceedings. It was further noted that if there was any objection to the state court proceedings, those objections should be dealt with at the state level. And then Vince's lawyer, Jessica Taub Rosenberg, she said, Ms. Grant's attempt to seek discovery in state court despite a stay in federal court is completely underhanded and exemplifies her consistently deceitful behavior. We will, per the federal court's the federal court's order, continue to pursue a court order to stop her. Ann Callis, which is Janelle's attorney, said her response was, we didn't violate a federal stay by filing a state action against a non-defendant. So then
they're trying to obtain evidence. This is what the process of discovery is about. They are in the process of gathering evidence continues regardless of if a case is stayed or unstayed, or sometimes cases end and people continue to investigate cases because they don't think that there's like complete stuff and that there's still people out there involved in the crime. Or
right.
They're so silly. And I kind of was reading the judge's answer, and it was almost like, not only is this dumb, but don't file anything like this again.
Right.
Was the federal judge's sort of attitude was like, you're literally you should know that the process goes on and you're wasting the taxpayers' money. They need to watch it. I don't care. They can keep doing it. But judges can get testy about stuff like that, and they can start
Right.
saying to you, if you keep this up, we will perceive this as stalling and blocking and things like, and that's
Right.
now you're impeding a federal, and like you're impeding a court investigation.
Right.
Like you're impeding the process of just a part of like going on with the thing. So if they keep pulling this crap, I mean, they may think it's a good strategy, but I mean, it may end up working against them, hopefully. That because
Yeah.
you're
like,
going
keep
to
doing
start
what you're
pissing
doing
both
because-
judges off. They're going to be like, you're
Yeah.
only doing this because she's filing legitimate claims. She's asking for something that she has a right to have in the first place.
Yeah.
You being like, well, she broke the rules, so now we can break the rules. That's
Right.
not law. That's
No.
your weirdness.
Yeah, and then also, so finally, because Dr. Kolker is the doctor that Janelle saw while she was under his care at Peak Wellness, and he, from what Janelle says, he was the go-to doctor for WWE employees and talent. It's unclear if that is still the case, but at the time of her lawsuit, that was the case. He's also a celebrity doctor. He's treated Shaq, Jeremy Piven, again, who was named in Me Too. He's treated, it was like, I think it was like Paul Rudd and like several other like really big names. So he's been kind of quiet, but then he also has come out and he claims that Grant, the word BJ uses, flouted the federal stay in her case against Vince and WWE by filing a discovery complaint last month against him and his company, which is the same line Vince's attorneys are claiming, except the federal court has denied that motion. And the judge in the federal case ruled that Grant didn't violate that stay. And then Kolker also is trying to obtain her phone records and her social media posts, as well as a deposition to show that she made false allegations against him, Peak Wellness, and Peak Wellness, among other injuries. Their claims are, okay, this is just, he's got some of the tweet.
Well, that's true. Then he needs to file a countersuit because they're named in the original lawsuit, and so she has a right. Peak Wellness is named in the original filing that she made.
Well, so no, it's not. She in the original filing in the very first lawsuit that's against Vince, John Laurinaitis, and WWE. It just says a medical clinic and a celebrity doctor. So he is not named, which is what Ann Callis is saying. She was like, he's not named in this lawsuit. We can go for our medical records because this lawsuit has nothing to do with him.
I have a right to request my medical records. That's
exactly.
That's called HIPAA. It's so funny how people ran around during the pandemic misusing the words HIPAA, and I'm like, no, hi, yeah, okay. So that the P's in there are about privacy and personal.
Who knew? And who knew what the P's and
those two P's are personal and privacy. Hey,
who knew?
Literally means that I have a right to demand a medical professional who treated me for anything gives me a full accounting of what they did to me.
Right.
And what was in. If I want the ingredients to a vaccine, they have to provide it to me.
Right. So I
mean, not the deep dive ones, but you know what I'm saying. Like
right.
This has egg derivative in it, and I'm allergic to eggs, so I can't take this. Like,
right. So Ann Callis responded to Kolker as well and says the court sided with Janelle and against McMahon in confirming she was within her right to seek her own medical records and data from Dr. Carlin Kolker of Peak Wellness. It is perplexing but on brand to file an attack against a woman formerly in his care. So Ann Callis has had enough of their shit.
I kind of love her.
Along with the lawyer, I mean the judges, she too has had enough of their shit, and she knows what they're doing. But it's gonna hurt them.
They're doing flack. They're honestly, again, they're abusing the legal system just to run flack against what Janelle's trying to obtain as part of making her case. They tread lightly because judges are busy. Their dockets are full. They don't have time for this BS either. As much as Ann Callis doesn't want to deal with their crap, like both of these judges, the state and federal judge, at some point are going to be like, stop wasting the taxpayers' time and money.
Right.
Judges, get testy. Look at the ones that we've seen dealing with Menendez, with the former president, those judges were like, dude, act like a grown-up or I'm going to put you in jail.
Right.
And they are well within their purview to do so.
Yeah, they are.
And again, I think it's good for, the only thing it's good for is that it helps her establish their case better, because them doing bullshit is admissible when she makes her case.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at all, instead of being transparent,
on the one hand,
they're like twisting themselves into pretzels to not follow the law.
Right. And I was going to say, on the one hand, I know she's super annoyed, but on the other hand, she's like, just keep doing it because you're just helping my case.
Yep. You're making my case for you. Thank you.
They're doing that. Yeah. And so I do also, I don't know that Paul is in the chat right now, but Paul sent both me and Mel a link to an interview that Bryan Danielson did this week. And I didn't watch the full interview. I just watched the one clip that he was referring to specifically. So Danielson was asked about Vince McMahon, and he's like, you've had a close relationship in the past. Now that you've kind of had time to sit with this, what do you have to say? And he was just like, no matter what happens, like, no matter how I feel about it, what the victims went through is way worse. And so he centered his entire response around the women, which I greatly appreciate, because that's not really happening in most cases when you hear from former wrestlers or former employees of WWE. It's, I can't, Vince, if it wasn't for Vince, I wouldn't have this. I hate that Vince is going through this. I hope this doesn't tarnish Vince's legacy. I hope it doesn't tarnish WWE's legacy. It's never about what Vince did, and it's never about the women. And so I think, other than maybe Bret Hart, I think everybody else has pretty much been, well, and, Randy Orton said some things that were a little, for the most part, was a pretty good answer. There were some things he maybe shouldn't have said, but at least he tried to kind of center it, a little bit more on the women as well. And he's like, but a lot of them, especially the people who are have podcasts like Kevin Nash, whose whole thing is the women are liars. She just wants money, and Vince is the best thing that ever happened to me. And so I really appreciated Daniel.
The people that essentially like give a Carney credit for their lives, who makes, and he does nothing but exploit them for cash, but they're like, oh, he's so, but I hope that, yeah. No, I actually appreciated that. It's a hard, they're going to get asked, hopefully, and they should have to answer.
They should.
And I think that is the best way to answer. Because his previous answer was a little bit like, he didn't defend Vince. He did make he did so much for me, but he was like, I hope that this can be something that he learns. Like, he was very deflective.
Yeah, his first answer was not great. So I feel like he is kind of either he has sat with it, or maybe he has talked to his wife and sister-in-law a little bit more, and maybe they have been like, hey, like, it's not about us. And
their mom's husband was involved in that stuff.
Which was interesting. Another interesting comment Danielson made was because they asked about Brie and Nikki, and he was like, that's not my place to speak for them. And then he said my father-in-law, or maybe soon to be ex-father-in-law. So he kind of dropped a little bit of tea that sounds like that Mama Garcia.
I don't know. Probably not.
Maybe Mama Garcia is not putting up with that. So he did give that, but I do feel like, I felt like Danielson was genuine with what he was saying. I don't feel like it was, hey, that first answer didn't go well, let me give this PR sound. Yeah. It felt like Danielson just in the listening to it in the context.
He had like you said, it felt like he had a sit with it.
Yeah, that's what the guy said. It's been a couple of months now. Like, what would you have to say? And it feels like, you know what? For me, sure, Vince did all of these things. Vince was close to me and all of this stuff, but that pales in comparison to what happened to these women. Or basically both things can be true. Vince could have been really good to me and done all of these things for me, but also he could be this really horrible person who has harmed people as well, and I can acknowledge both of those things, which I appreciated from him. And
well,
then
that's more than you've gotten from most people, because they
Yes.
can't separate the two. And I think that
Mhm.
that's, I mean, we're all struggling with separating, like, because every day it seems like we get on the socials and somebody new is doing something that's underhanded that we all have to come to terms with, that we liked that person, but they were a horrible person or something. So I think it's good, and I always think it's good when anybody puts the focus on the victims, because that's what's at the crux of the case, is that these people were abused and exploited by their boss.
Right.
They were terrorized by him. Like,
yeah,
they
two very different experiences.
Felt like prisoners in their, I mean, you know, well, she was making all this money and she was, but she was kind of prisoner in her own life, and she was grieving, and
a lot of very gross things that were happening, and it's not just Janelle. We've talked about it. Like, there's these are the women that we know about, and there's multiple NDAs because this has been a pattern of behavior for decades. Rita Charlton has tried to sound the alarm since the early 90s about what happened to her. And like you said, there's the stuff with Ashley Massaro. We've talked about the stuff with Jimmy Snuka, even that goes back decades too. So there's decades and decades of this behavior, and this is just a very small amount of what we actually know. And there's probably way more things out there, and it could be both men and women for all we know. Like, I think this is just and knowing what we do know is pretty damn awful. So I can only imagine what we don't know. But I will put this up. Lady B thanked us for talking about it. I see a lot of written articles about the lawsuit, but it's obvious that there's some reluctancy to talk about some wrestling media to discuss this on podcasts and YouTube. There is, and we definitely want to talk about that. And Lady B said, "Has Triple H read the lawsuit yet?" I would say, based on the episode that happened with Liv Morgan about a month and a half ago, that it did, because
he's at least taken a
finally
peek at
read it, because he definitely got some there are some real life things mirroring
or someone gave him a Cliff's Notes summary version of it or something, but he definitely seems to have
maybe somebody just gave him a Cliff Notes version. Maybe he hasn't actually read it, and somebody was just like, hey, let's use this as a story.
I mean, they're just seriously running propaganda in a storyline. It's so whatever, but I mean, I hope so.
That's something interesting from Danielson's interview, was that he insinuated that Johnny Ace is now his ex-father-in-law. I caught that too, and I saw that a couple other people were like, he just kind of snuck that in there, which, I don't blame her.
I can't believe. I mean, some of it went on for a long time, and she actually knew some of it. It sounds like was, or at least she either suspected or was aware to some degree of some of the things. Maybe not the extent, but it's just a terrible way to treat. I mean, that's your wife too. I mean, on top of that, you've got a wife. You're doing all of these things, and you're married. You gross jerk.
It's gross on a lot of levels.
so many levels. But
so many levels.
I don't blame her, and she has every right, and I hope she gets a giant. I hope she gets a lot of payout and alimony and stuff before.
Me too.
Yeah, tries to liquidate his assets or some crap.
Yeah, right. So that's the update there with the Janelle Grant case and Danielson and all that stuff. So I will talk about, before we switch into some of the AEW topics, we will go ahead and stay with WWE, because I do want to talk about the Wyatt 6 debut. It is currently my favorite thing that is happening in WWE. Hold on one second before we get into that. Lady B said, "I still cannot unhear his horrible answer at that press conference. Your children's grandfather was accused of a crime and you haven't read it. WWE PR failed on that day and many days since." Yes, I go back to that often about how I'm like, that's your children's grandfather, and he's being accused of some. Not only is it your father-in-law, and you are married to his daughter, but that is, like you said, that is your children's grandfather.
That is some pretty egregious to me. Stuff. I'm always like,
That just is, you put your company before, with that answer, whether it's true or not. I still don't know if he was telling the truth when he said he hadn't read it. I felt like he just didn't want to answer. But you are
That's
putting
the
that
worst way to not
answer makes
answer.
you sound like you were putting that company above your children. And that is an awful, awful look considering what's in that lawsuit. There's pretty egregious things in there. But ugh.
Yeah, the reason I'll never get any sort of I'll never get a press credential or do anything is because my absolute question would be would you leave your children alone in a room with your father-in-law?
Right.
Pretty sure I know the answer.
Nikki said she said, I was like, bro, your wife is named too. I know we didn't know at the time, but they did. Right. She is very likely corporate officer number 3, who was at SummerSlam on TV once again last week.
Yeah, I saw that she was all over the place. I think that
and that was the one question last week, as we talked about, was, is she back officially? Which is an appropriate question to answer. But then like we talked about, Triple H said, well, she wasn't happy for a while. Well, why wasn't she happy for a while? Tell us why. Why is Shane McMahon meeting with Tony Khan? Why doesn't he?
I think they rolled her out because of that. That seemed to me of a direct response where they were like, yeah, we have a McMahon too. We still have one. She's the girl one. We're awesome. We have a girl. She can tell people. She can tell people to keep their trauma a secret, and it's okay. Because she's a girl. Because it's okay if it comes from a girl.
Yeah.
I'm obviously being extremely sarcastic here in case you are missing it.
Yeah.
Not you.
Right. No, I know.
General land of crazy.
If this is the first time that you've watched our show before,
yeah, right. I was being extremely sarcastic because F that crap. Yeah. It's just the whole thing's yuck.
It is very yuck.
I hope this is the final. We've said it many times. I really hope this is the time. Finally, the universe gets him. It just too much bad behavior for too long finally comes around. And I mean, again, the federal stay is kind of a big indicator that something is out there.
Right. Yeah. And as we've talked about, this month makes
because they'll unstay it eventually. They can't do that forever. That has a limitation on it, probably.
Right. And then as we talked about, this is the 1 year. It's been 1 year since the federal grand jury was subpoenaed.
So that poor jury has been seated for a year.
Yeah. So either an indictment is coming in the next few weeks, I would assume, or they're going to. I guess the other option would be to ask for an extension, which would hold these people for. I think they can ask. I think BJ said they can do a 6-month extension. I believe. So then that would put these people under a year and a half of being seated, which is a very long time. I mean, they could do it, so it'll be interesting.
They had a good conversation about, because the Conley lawsuit and stuff is also going on. Garrett had, I think his last name is Nash, but Garrett and Dave had him on, and he was talking about that lawsuit and the settlement and the stuff like that. But one of the things that they brought up that was something that I was thinking about with this case as well is that these kinds of things could be pushing through because they might be trying to push through a potential Trump election situation. You know what I'm saying? Is to keep doing kicking the can down the road with legally to try and push past November, because
that's been something that
they see potentially friendlier courts on the horizon if he wins. And it's hard to ignore that potential.
That could certainly be a possibility. We've talked about
that's legal. That's legal maneuvering for you. That's a lot of what you're trying to do is.
Well, and also we've talked about how it's the SDNY who is pursuing this case. They're also on the Diddy case. On the Sean Combs.
This court has some
massive cases,
wild cases, and it just wrapped up. I mean, they just wrapped up the one with the ex-president. They just wrapped up one of the worst corruption cases that
the Bob Menendez thing. Just ended 3 weeks ago.
The guy who was so bad at being corrupt in America that he got federally indicted.
Yeah, right.
How bad at it do you have to be?
Very, very bad. Very bad.
But
so
thank
there's
you,
a lot
because
of
now
there's
that's on
still
the
a lot
books.
of moving parts with this.
Yeah.
Like, don't think that just because he's not been indicted yet doesn't mean that he's not going to be. There's probably a lot of things at play that we have no idea about. And so, but the fact that they have sealed some stuff as well in recent weeks, that's also interesting. We don't know why they sealed what they sealed yet. Does that have something to do with potential indictments? Maybe. It seems to look that way. But we don't know for sure. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's why we're going to keep talking about this, because this case, like we've said from the beginning, this is going to be a very long, drawn out process. This is not going to be a quick thing, because even once he's indicted, you have to go to trial. And there's a lot of information. And so that trial is going to last. There's going to be people subpoenaed. There's going to be all kinds of things happening.
Well,
and so
they'll do everything they can to not go to trial anyway, right. And they'll try to make the arguments about how these are
do injunctions and
mediated. This needs to be mediated in Connecticut.
Yeah, they've already were doing the mediation stuff before.
Because you originally signed on and it said that you wouldn't do it in court, that you'd have it mediated in Connecticut and blah. And but there's a lot of laws being passed right now that are essentially like the one that just went through with the NDAs can actually potentially help Janelle and a lot of people like her. Is there's a thing working its way through Congress, and I think it made its way through, is that they can't enforce. They're making they're making it so that people can't work in their own businesses like for years,
right?
Where it's like, oh, I signed a 7-year NDA, so I can't, like, I'm a Google engineer, so I can't work at any other computer company. Well, how am I going to get a job?
Right.
So the federal government is now involved in that, and they're saying that those are unenforceable. That would carry over down to her it would even give her them more clout, especially since, from everything we know so far, that NDA wasn't drafted properly or signed properly anyway.
Which means if hers wasn't, that it probably means that all the other NDAs were also not done properly, which means that women could start coming forward.
Grandfathering. It's a federal law goes into effect that says that those NDAs, you can't do that. It will affect Janelle's case, and probably positively. Because that's the stuff that they're essentially, because you're essentially making somebody not tell something. You can't make somebody not tell somebody else that someone's breaking the law. You can't sign your rights away. No matter what contract you sign, you can't sign your rights away. So if I sign an NDA, but I am being abused at work, that's illegal. That makes that NDA moot, essentially, because
that's actually not correct, Vinkin. The people who signed NDAs and got the money, those NDAs were not done properly. That negates the NDAs, and they will all fall apart. So there's a very good chance that all those women who have signed NDAs that we know of, and even those we don't know of, there's a possibility that this would undo all of that, and they would be free if they wanted to. We've talked about the numerous reasons of why they would not want to, but if they want to, they would be able to, and they don't have to pay the money back. It's because the NDA was done incorrectly. And so it doesn't stand up in court. And NDAs don't stand up in court in general anymore, from conversations I've had with people, because they're hard to enforce, especially when it comes to this type of stuff. So not necessarily. And there's
just because you can't sign away you can't sign a document. A company can't enforce a document that allows law breaking to continue. You can't.
Right.
If it's signed under the pretense of we were breaking the law, you need to sign this, that's just immediately no, that's not how the law works. That's just not. No matter what your position description was as when you signed your employee handbook that said that you would do all that, it's not once you break the law, though.
Right.
As soon as you broke the law,
and the NDA was, in some of these cases, the NDA was because he broke the law and he didn't want them talking about it, so he paid them a certain amount of money.
It's kind of worse. Yeah,
Yeah, because one of the women that signed the NDA didn't even work. She wasn't even an employee. They brought her in for, she was basically an independent contractor. She came in for 2 dates. And then he was texting her.
They were like, we don't want you telling anybody what's going on here, so here's some money.
Right.
and a document that says that you can't say anything. And I mean, most people won't fight because it's like you versus a corporation.
Well, and you come in, and this is a look at this $1 billion company that WWE is. They're not going to go. A lot of them don't have the means to go against somebody like that. So there could be a lot of things at play here, so it's definitely something to keep an eye on with that law, that how that plays out, and how that could affect
that too could affect
on top of the fact that the NDAs apparently were not drawn up correctly to begin with. But even if they were drawn up correctly, then this new law could still undo all of that. And then if they choose to, these women could potentially come forward and talk about what happened to them freely, and there would be no repercussions for it. So yes. But yeah, so now we really will go back to the other thing. Talk about the Wyatt.
We swear.
So last Monday, the Raw was in Baltimore, Maryland, which 11 years ago to the day is when the Wyatts, which was Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, and Eric Rowan, they made their debut for the first time. So 11 years later, we got the in-ring, not the in-ring debut of the Wyatts, but their first match, because they've had some in-ring stuff before, but their first official match happened. They faced Chad Gable and the Creed brothers, who are now known as American Made, and every time I hear it, I want to say American Male, and I want them to redo the song and it just say American Made instead of American Male. But so they had their first match, and they all came out together. They're using the last theme song that Bray Wyatt was using, which already adds just like an emotional layer. Then we see the rocking chair, and the rocking chair has a lantern sitting in it. And the Wyatt Six all come around, and Uncle Howdy stops, picks up the lantern, and sits in the chair. And then Nikki Cross, who is now the rumored name for Nikki Cross was Abby the Witch. She is officially Abby the Witch. So Abby sits down in front of him holding the lantern, and the other three go to the ring for their match. And then throughout the match, there's just like all these throwbacks to references to both Bray and Brody Lee. They're both they were saying that a few times they did the yeah, yeah, yeah chant. And then one time Rowan did, you know how Brody Lee used to kiss his fingers, and he would look to, and that he did that and looked up to the sky. And it was just really nice that they just had these moments together. And then the match was good. Like that was, a lot of people were like, obviously the presentation of the characters and stuff have been done really well. What happens when they're actually in the ring? They had a really good match. They worked. It was, so the match itself was, Joe Gacy, Dexter Lumis, and Eric Rowan. And then Gacy powerbombed Lumis on top of Chad Gable, and then Lumis hit a Rowan-assisted splash off the top rope, and then that's how they win. Then they celebrated, how the Wyatts would celebrate, where they would, Bray would get down on one knee and have his arms out. That's what they did. And then after the show went off air, there was video of Uncle Howdy and Rowan hugging each other and then pointing to the sky. And then even before it went off air, Michael Cole said, that Bray Wyatt is looking down at them and he's so proud of them. And it was just a really nice moment. And the whole thing was just, to me anyway, especially because I was a Bray Wyatt fan, it was a really emotional thing. But I really like that they are paying tribute to him, but it's not in a way that feels forced. Or like, hey, you gotta make people think about Bray Wyatt. Like, it just felt like it was very natural, and that they are being free to use wrestling to grieve, basically, is what it felt. And like, I think that for a lot of us who were Bray fans, to kind of grieve together and to kind of enjoy this thing together, which so far they have knocked it out of the park every single week. They have just done a really, really good job. And we got right before the match, we got the final video. It was of Joe Gacy, and so they've been doing these VHS tapes every single week, and that kind of explains their why are you with the Wyatts. And And so Wyatt is Uncle Howdy saved you. So it's really cool, like the way that they've done it. And so we've heard from each member, or even if the members don't talk, because Abby the Witch doesn't speak. The only thing Dexter said was run, and then Joe Gacy, the only thing he said was we're here. And so it was really cool, just the way that they have done it, and it's been done really well, and it's done in a way that I think really honors Bray's vision. And it also Bo's vision, because it was Bray and Bo's vision together when they were doing the Uncle Howdy stuff. And so I think for them to get to let that play out, and it seems that they have a lot of creative control, and they're able to tell the story that they want to tell while honoring Bray, and then kind of just moving forward together as one unit to kind of just, to honor him and figure out how to navigate being in this new reality without him. And then in Rowan's case, where he doesn't have Bray or Brody anymore. And how, because he even says in that tape that he was like, it knocked me off my feet with Luke with Brody, and he was like, and I was in this really dark place. I finally start climbing out of it, and then Bray is gone, and I'm just knocked right back down. And so then the story, of course, is Uncle Howdy steps in and is like, come with me, I'll help you, and kind of like that type of thing. But yeah, I just really, really have enjoyed how they've done this, and I really hope that they keep it up. And it's I wasn't thinking about it until they were talking about the 11-year anniversary. I believe it's the 24th. Will be a year since Bray passed away, which is, yeah, it doesn't seem like it at times. And so I think that's a Saturday. So I'm assuming maybe the following Raw or the Raw leading up to it, maybe they'll do something, to honor Bray. I'm sure. I mean, everything they do obviously is honoring Bray, but they may do something special. But I know I talk a lot of negative things about WWE because there's a lot of things I don't like, but I really just love what they're doing here. And that's my favorite, and I do enjoy the Bloodline stuff, but the Bray stuff, or the Wyatt 6 stuff, is just my favorite thing that they're doing, and they're doing such a good job with it.
It's nice to hear, because they're kind of notorious for not handling stuff like that very well. So to hear that they are actually doing it justice is actually nice. I'm glad.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I was really cautiously optimistic, and I still am.
They have obviously a long history of not doing a good job with that sort of thing. And
even coming with Bray, they don't have a good history of, they constantly would drop the ball with him.
I mean, even before, right?
When he was, when the Wyatt family stuff, even when he was Husky Harris, it's just been this ongoing ball dropping with anything related to him, because they didn't understand his vision. And finally, it feels like they're getting it, and they're allowing, or they're just getting out of the way, and be like you still have to wrestle, and we have a show, and they're kind of they're going at, it seems to be the reason they keep going after Chad Gable is because he's a bully and he turned his back on the Alpha Academy, which is his family. And there's subtle little hints with other places, like Dakota Kai was talking backstage, and one of their little symbols they use is popped up. Well, Dakota Kai turned on Bailey, and Damage Control turned on her. So she's they have their eyes on her, and I think there's somebody, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I feel like there was somebody else that they the symbol had popped in, and it's because they turned on their family. And so that seems to be kind of why that shows, I guess, what they're there for, is they're okay, so we started with Chad Gable because he was verbally abusive to these people, and then he turned on them. And then again, like we said with Dakota Kai, and then it was funny because Kofi Kingston tweeted and was tweeting about how they're the only group that's still together, because Judgment Day disbanded, because they all disbanded as we know it, because Finn turned on Damian Priest, and then they all sided with him, and so it's just Damian and Rhea by themselves now. And so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But so Kofi tweeted and was like, we're the New Day's the only one still together. And so we were joking, and I jokingly said, no, I was like, the Wyatt 6 are not coming for me, because I have not turned my back on the New Day. And so it was just funny that they even the other wrestlers are like, wait, something's not right here. Yes, you are correct, Benkin, that Carlito joins the Judgment Day for that PS5. Don't let them fool you. I will not. And now it's been broken, and he still wants to know when it's going to be replaced. because
I mean,
Rhea,
that's a PS5, man.
Rhea was not happy with that backstage area. Got their little clubhouse or whatever was decimated, and his poor PS5 was part of the damage, and so he's
Ouch.
not happy with that. But yes, you're correct, Finken. That's the only reason he's there. All right, let's see. So that's been the WWE segment of the show. Actually, I say that we're probably going to cross back over because we're going to talk about the tag teams.
Well, yeah, we are going to. Yeah, I mean, it is going to come up. So.
Yes. So we so the big story last week was that the Lucha Brothers are probably leaving. They are likely on their way to WWE, which caught a lot of people off guard, myself included a bit, just because when you think of AEW and tag teams, besides the Young Bucks, it's the Lucha Brothers. They have been there since day one. Some of the best matches in that company involve not just the Lucha Brothers, but the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks. So their contracts are up, I think, October, I think is what it is. September, October, something very close.
Or they may have been up or are coming close to being up any minute. Like there's a lot of, because no one really knows.
Right.
There are a lot of guesses going on, but yes, it's.
And then Phoenix, over the weekend, it came out that Phoenix has pulled out of an indie date that he had for September. They both have been filing trademarks, which should smart in general, whether you're staying or going, is smart. But all of this together seems to imply that the Lucha Brothers are on their way out, which is insane for multiple reasons. One, they're one of the best tag teams going. Secondly, WWE has a lot of baggage. They don't really have a tag team division, but AEW doesn't really have a tag team division. So then it comes out from Brian Alvarez that the reason the Young Bucks are not on TV is not because the Young Bucks don't want to work, but because Tony Khan doesn't want to pay them. They are per date people, and he doesn't want to pay them certain dates, and so he's making them sit at home, and that the belts are being held are not being held hostage by the Bucks, but in fact by Tony Khan's booking, because he's not booking the Bucks. He is having them stay home because they're per appearance. Apparently, is what's in their contract. They get a certain amount. They do a certain amount of dates per year and get paid for that. And according to Brian Alvarez, Tony is, so all of this is on Tony, is the way it's being played out. Which then, the only thing that makes sense to me is because assuming Brian Alvarez is correct, then he's keeping the Young Bucks at home, making the titles not be defended. Lucha Brothers are very close to the Young Bucks. Motor City Machine Guns, also very close to the Young Bucks. If the Young Bucks are being treated like this, when they are EVPs of the company, and also the tag team champions, then they may be telling their friends, you should probably leave.
Do what makes you happy.
Go get paid. If you're looking at this and the pay is very similar, because then we were like, well, what if the offers are really similar? Like they're not that far apart. Do you stay in AEW where you've already been, but then
if you know, but if you are those two teams, like especially the Lucha Bros, like you said it right at the beginning. Some of the most classic matches in AEW history have been the Bucks versus Lucha Bros. I mean, it was like, that's like a backbone. That when you talk about pillars, foundation, that's like the concrete, dude. That's like the basement. Like
that's 7. I mean, they've had a great matches anyway, but that 7-match series they did.
Oh my God. We all thought it was going to be a nightmare. It ended up being one of the greatest things that year.
And then it ended with the ladder match that was incredible on top of that.
So if you're them though, and you know that your boss isn't going to book the teams that you want to work with.
Right. That's what
I mean, that's kind of scary. I didn't realize that. That's interesting. I knew a bunch about the Lucha Bros stuff because I don't always have sources, but when I do, they tend to be right. So
yeah, let me see if I screenshot.
But that is so because you wouldn't. Well,
let me see.
They're like tag team soulmates, and Tony won't book them.
Right.
Why would I want to hang around?
Right. Yeah. So here is the quote Brian Alvarez was speaking on his show, and he said, I gotta say this because people have taken this out on the Bucks. Listen, everybody, if you think that the Young Bucks book their own stuff, they don't. If you're upset about the Young Bucks not being on TV, if you were upset about the Bucks not defending their tag team titles, there is one person to be upset at, and that is Tony Khan, because whatever contract they signed was for X number of dates, and he has not wanted to pay them. Maybe he's got some plans at the end of the year, or they use a number of dates at the beginning of the year. I don't know what it is, but it isn't the Young Bucks deciding, hey, we're going to take the summer off and not defend our tag team titles. It's like Brock Lesnar. Remember, people got mad at Brock for never showing up for somehow Brock was calling his shots. It's like that. He had a X number of dates, and they did not want to pay him for extended periods of time, so they told him to stay home, and he farmed and drank whole milk. And when they wanted him, they would call him back to work, and that's exactly what the Bucks will do when they get the call. And then, as we saw last night, the Bucks they will be defending their tag team titles against the Acclaimed on Wednesday night, which just so happens to be announced right after the story comes out. Was this already the plan? Maybe. Just interesting timing between the two, especially because it seemed like they were going to do a 3-way tag match at All In, because the Acclaimed were still due for their title shot, and FTR is all of a sudden back in the picture and like, no, we want to do this again. And so it looked like they were doing the 3-way, but I'm curious now, because of the way the main event ended last night with the trios, is the trios title is actually going to be the one that's the triple threat, and it's going to be the Patriarchy versus the Bang Bang Gang versus House of Black. And so they're not going to do 2 3-way matches, and so they're doing Young Bucks and Acclaimed. Young Bucks obviously are going to retain, and then I guess they're going to face a FTR, because we are now 14 days away from All In, from the biggest pay-per-view of the year, and there's no tag match. So yes, apparently that is the story going around.
So wait, like that, but if I'm say if I'm Motor City and I hear that story,
yep.
Well, I automatically am being told that I'm not going to get to work with the people that I'm like coming on there to work with, because we haven't worked together as grown-ups before, like as full-blown.
Sure.
So that program on a real TV show is where they can have their final program together.
That match to me is a needle mover. We go back to the beginning.
That's a freaking pay-per-view match right there.
It is a pay-per-view match. So that's been my thought, was even if it's not necessarily that they don't get to work with the Young Bucks, because clearly they have made it clear they want to work with younger teams.
Well, they would, and they would be a wonderful influence,
right,
on the locker room. But not if they're not going to get to work, or what if they get a weird deal? What if they get the titles? Do they have to sit at home? Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if they get a deal where it's like, okay, well, yeah, I'll pay all this money, but you're only paid per appearance, and WWE's like, here's your money and your salary, and
right. And so now and then that makes sense with the Lucha Brothers. So that's why the Lucha Brothers, if that's why they're leaving, is like, hey, we don't get to wrestle the Bucks anymore, or we don't get to wrestle it. Like, when is the last time the Lucha Brothers had a tag match? I'm sure it doesn't seem recent. Maybe it's more recent than it seems, but it
would have been on like a Rampage, I think, was the most recent one. And that's they don't belong on Rampage.
And then another Dynamite or Collision. Thing that I heard yesterday, I don't know how accurate it is, but I heard that Penta is the one who wants to leave, and Phoenix just wants to be a good brother and will do whatever Penta says. I heard that it was one brother was really like, and it was very much about like sort of having the WWE experience with the WrestleManias and the things like that. Is that when you are a kid and when you are watching whatever, that was the North American wrestling they watched too. So in some ways, like, I mean, they can't help it. AEW does not exist as an alternative.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
It just, what sucks about it is that we know WWE's history of, they don't speak English barely at all or very well. And
that's what one of the things that, because somebody, when the rumors first started, before we knew the Young Bucks part of it, somebody said Pac is going to dry off and die because he's going to be by himself, because those are his best friends. Like, that's the other thing. Like, we're not only losing an incredible tag team, but the trios of Death Triangle is an incredible.
Pac will be all by himself.
There's a huge part of that. Then on top of that, Alex Abrahantes.
Right, because they moved
What
a
is
bunch
he
of
gonna
packs.
do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna? I mean, not that they can't repackage him and put him with someone else.
Obviously.
Of course they can, but he makes that like he's a part of that. He does the Penta says, like that's where that all came from, is because they can speak English, but they obviously maybe they're not super comfortable with it or whatever. So that's how the Penta says started. So,
but I don't need to see a bunch of WWE fans screaming what at Penta and Phoenix. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need that in my life.
If you are only thinking of me and nobody else in your decision, Pentagon, if you go to WWE, that means that you do not get to do any more destroyers because they don't do that there.
Yeah, right.
So you are just think about me for a moment here, Penta.
And his destroyers are destroyers.
Amazing. They're amazing.
He is
every
like
time
king
I
of
see
the...
Penta, I was like, I am gonna get an amazing destroyer.
Yeah, right.
And so
right.
If he goes to AEW, if he goes to WWE, well, not get to see them anymore. Maybe he doesn't want to do them anymore. Maybe so. Some people theorize that the reason Penta wants to go to WWE is because he wants to phone it in. He wants to.
I mean,
he likes Shinsuke and works 60%. Listen, Penta at 60% is still a lot better than a lot of people. Just like Shinsuke.
I mean, I don't blame people. They've been 60. Like they worked their way up from. I mean, they were like basically on the street. They started out on the streets and doing wrestling, and are now like stars. And like they're being offered WWE, and you know they're the one of the biggest tag teams on the planet right now. Like, I mean, I wouldn't. As Jeff Hawkins loves to say all the time, get paid. I mean, if that's your motivation and that's what you want.
Yeah, like again, the whole thing. Like, if we're talking about anything but money, because clearly, like, I get it, get paid. Right. We've talked about like we want people to make as much money as they possibly
do. What makes you happy,
especially, and we've talked about with this with
sad,
we've talked about this with Motor City. This is likely their last chance to get a really big deal because they're both in their early 40s, and the way they're conditioned, like I think these two could go if they wanted to. They could wrestle into their 50s. I would not be as surprised if Alex Shelley wrestles into his 50s because of what he does. And I could see him going to Japan.
Well, they'll still book him in Japan if he wants
to. Right, I see him going to Japan when he's done with WWE.
He'll have a match at like something like Genesis or something. Like,
and if there's still, that's the things. If they're still doing, I don't know if they're going to do a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal with both Lucha Brothers and Motor City. So this could potentially be, we've talked about this before, this could potentially be Motor City's last big contract that they can get. They deserve to get a big contract after all of the years that they spent in TNA, all the years that they have spent revitalizing tag team wrestling, and they have invented things, and they are the reason, again, we've said it a million times, they're the reason the Young Bucks even made it to TV is because of Motor City. So I want them to get paid. But if you take money away and you look at both companies, like, and what they're offering, like why, and that's the question that Laurent asked. This is the question I ask all the time when I heard that they were even considering WWE. Is if I can hang on, move this up. My thing's not wanting to work. Yeah, Laurent says, if you're Motor City Machine Guns, what is the selling point of going to WWE? Their tag team division is in worse shape than AEW's. My guess is that the selling point is NXT, because NXT is where all the young talent is, and that is Motor City is in a point in their careers. Well, they've always been somebody who wants to help younger teams and younger wrestlers. But that's what they talked about when they were in TNA the last 4 years. That's what they were doing. And they weren't even working. They were working with all kinds of wrestlers. Like Alex Shelley has talked about working like with Masha and stuff. And they were teaching people like where the cameras are and things like that, teaching them TV stuff. So that's been their whole thing. And Alex Shelley said on Instagram like a week or two ago that he wants to open a wrestling school. Completely on brand with everything we know about Alex Shelley. So I feel like NXT is the selling point for them because NXT is going to the CW in October. So do they hold? That was my other question. Do they hold them off until October when CW goes?
Because that would be kind of it'd be That'd be a draw. I mean,
because the October 1st show is in Chicago. CM Punk has been announced for that. August 8th is the show in St. Louis. Randy Orton will be at that NXT show. So how do you keep them watching and interested after those two big shows? Debut Motor City Machine Guns. They could do that. And Scott D'Amore announced that he has revived Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling in Canada. And Giselle Shaw is gonna be there. Josh Alexander. The first show I think is sometime in October. I want to say. I think it's October 26th. I could be wrong about that. So they're as we have talked about many, many times, Motor City Machine Guns are extremely close to Scott D'Amore. I could see them holding off on going anywhere until they can do whatever they can to help Scott get this off the ground. Does that mean that they wrestle for him? Does it mean they're doing stuff backstage with them? Are they training? Are they trainers there?
Yeah, they could certainly be.
I mean, I still think that WWE and AEW are the possibility, but what if I don't know that they would go to Maple Leaf full time, but maybe if they're trying to help Scott get this off the ground, maybe they do. Like, what's the rush and the way both tag team divisions are going? What's the rush going to TV right now?
Yeah, right.
Unless you're and even still, if they do NXT, and they both have said, or Alex has said that their time is winding down on the indies, regardless of where they go, because they feel like the indies are in good hands. But also, I feel like they'll do whatever they can to help Scott D'Amore. So I could see them waiting and going and being on his first show. Then now that they're on the CW, then they come to NXT. And then also, we've talked about it before, Alex Shelley has a day job. I don't know that. Of course,
well, and the thing is, I was just going to say the Toronto connection. I mean, we're finishing up right now. They're fixing up the new Gordie Howe International Bridge, and we've been working directly with the Canadians, building a new bridge. But going back and forth, I mean, it's up to 20 minutes from me, the bridge to Canada.
Yeah, it's not far.
So it's a very. One of the things that COVID really screwed up, there are many people who live in Michigan and work in Windsor, or vice versa. Many people would go back and forth between when they closed the borders down. It was like people couldn't go to work and they couldn't get home to their families and things like that. So it's talked about I mean, that is conceivable to me when I think about
when I think about Motor City.
It's 20 minutes to the bridge to Canada. Is 20 minutes for me.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, I mean, I knew they were close.
That's
but
normal. The train from Detroit, if they're closer to that. I mean, it's a very common. We work back and forth and I mean, again, we've been. I've been telling people this because it's one of the I'm like, look at what we're doing. It's an international coordination of a bridge construction that's like this, and it's been totally done oh, it's amazing. It's so cool. You should look it up sometime if you're into that nerdy stuff. But it's been this amazing thing, and it's because we're so close. If you Toronto, if you look at the map, Toronto is south of Detroit. It's right under it. That's like the little trivia is that it hooks right underneath Detroit on the map because of where the peninsula is. So that's a very normal. That would not be that's a horrible. I mean, we drove to Toronto when we went to Farindor, just in John Hughes too.
Right.
I mean,
I remember you saying that.
It's only it's like a 5-hour drive. It takes you longer. Again, it's always getting
7
back
hours to get to Jacksonville.
Well, the thing is it's always harder to get, and this is universally true. This has always been my experience. It's harder to get back into the U.S. than it is to get out of it.
Yeah.
That no matter the easiest was Ireland. We have a international thing with them, so you can basically check in there and walk into Chicago and go through very little immigration naturalization stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's always harder to get, even if you are an American, it's always harder to get back into America than it is to leave America. So, I mean, but again, that transition, we have you can get a license here, an enhanced license that you don't need a passport. It just is I go back and forth because I work contractors and stuff. So I have plenty of friends that have the enhanced license so they can go to Canada anytime they want to. And Like,
Yeah.
again, it's something that you can do through our Secretary of State that we have a joint thing with. So
Right.
that actually makes a little bit of sense because they'd be in on the ground floor. They'd be able to help build something. I mean, they can
Right.
still be home when they need to be here.
Right.
And
Yeah, because then we've talked about, like, of course, whether he signs a contract or whatever he signs, Alex Shelley could decide that he doesn't want to do his day job, that he's going to leave. But if he decides to stay, working Tuesdays would allow him to continue to do that. He has he talks a lot about his nutrition and fitness business that he has, and he could easily do that regardless of what his schedule is. But he has, that's the thing we've been talking about, like, because people were like, well, why haven't they shown up anywhere yet? Because these two are busy. Like, they're doing all kinds of indies, and Alex Shelley is constantly he's constantly
community here.
He even said like 3 or 4 days ago, he posted on Instagram he got another certification. He just got one like 3 weeks ago. So I could see they don't seem to be in a rush to get wherever they're going.
They don't need
and
to
at
be.
This point, why should they? Look at both companies. They're not doing anything with the tag team.
Well, and if they want to book somewhere, they certainly can. And it's not like
Alex Shelley wrestled in Canada yesterday, and I think he's got another show coming up in like 2 weeks or something like that. Like, so he's still doing indie stuff. Like, he's not done yet. So, and these are just what's announced. We don't know. I mean, and again, they still hold the tag team titles at your local promotion. Like, I'm not that they can't just drop, but like vacate or whatever, but like they're still doing stuff, and so I don't. But then another thing that I wanted to was talking about was also GYV. They have been in the conversation of signing with AEW. GYV just got announced for Capital Collision this week. So I was wondering, I was like, I mean, clearly New Japan and AEW have a relationship, but then I was like, are they leaning towards going to New Japan? Is that what they're doing? Is that why? Because I think if I'm not mistaken, they have been in England working at a wrestling school or doing some stuff there. So I think that's part of the reason they've not been here as much as they had been. And that's why they haven't like officially been in AEW more often, I think. But I saw the Capital Collision date and I was like, is that because they've got something with AEW and they're just doing both? Or are they leaning towards going to New Japan? World Tag League starts in November. Are they going to be in that? And then, of course, there's the Wrestle Dynasty on January the 5th. That's going to be AEW, ROH, CMLL, and New Japan. So are they good? So maybe they're just kind of maybe that's somebody that they're going to use among the brands. So I was like, so there's GYV, and we've talked about like maybe Motor City just goes and they go and join World Tag League and do some stuff, rebuild New Japan. New Japan doesn't really have much of a tag team division either. I mean, they've got some really good teams, but it's like TMDK. There was ELP and Hikuleo, but that's not the case anymore. And then there's Yoshihashi and Goto.
Fishman.
And I think there's there's like one or two other teams. So they don't really have a tag team division either. So and I'm way behind on TNA. I do know that ABC are their current tag titles, but TNA doesn't have much of a division either. They keep kind of floating around between the same teams. So tag team wrestling, just among the major promotions, nobody seems to give a damn anymore, which is really sad because I love tag team wrestling. When I was really watching was late 90s, early 2000s, and that's when tag team wrestling was one of the most important things they had going. It was the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian,
Dudleys,
the Dudleys. Like that was right up my alley. And I hate that it seems like the indies are better at booking tag team wrestling than the majors are, because it seems like it's not a priority for any of them. And
especially when you consider that the people that essentially helped found AEW are a tag team. They are a well-known, it's a giant bummer.
Yeah, it is a giant bummer. And so that's what I said the other day. I was like, is Deadlock Pro the only wrestling promotion that gives a damn about tag team wrestling? I mean, nice. GCW has some tag team wrestling and they care. Deadlock consistently books there. They have a tag team wrestling festival, tournament
Nice.
every year. Like, so they actually focus on their division. And so it feels like, that just nobody gives that they've just moved on from tag team wrestling. Or so the companies that do their tag team wrestling, they focus on the same tag teams over and over again. And nobody, because that's the thing, like we've talked about a lot, is how do you go from that? AEW had such a stacked tag team division in the beginning. And then now you have Young Bucks, FTR, and the Acclaimed that you just loop back around with. I mean, sometimes Lucha Brothers get thrown in there.
Private Party occasionally.
Yeah, and they're finding they're doing a little bit more Private Party. Top Flight is back and forth between AEW and ROH. Sometimes they're more of a trios thing because of Action and Andretti. But now they've got a match next week with MXM Collection. So thankfully, that's what I told Nikki today. I was like, it's like they signed MXM Collection and they're like, we're done. We don't need any more new tag teams. Like, we've added, and this team can go back and forth between AEW and ROH, which they're already doing. So it's just like, I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know why anybody would sign with either company for tag team wrestling. And of course, you can do singles wrestling with Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. You can do singles wrestling with Penta and Phoenix. We've seen both have done it. Alex Shelley was at the end of he was champion in TNA.
Yeah, right.
He was the world champion for a while, and while he was part of the time he was world champion, Chris was X Division champion for the 10th time. We've seen Phoenix with the international championship. He got injured, but we've seen him with that. So we've seen them. So they could. That's what I'm wondering, if they're going to sign them as tag team divisions and then eventually just make them singles wrestlers, which is not awful because they're all four phenomenal individual wrestlers. But when your tag team divisions suck and you have two of the best tag teams in the world, you don't need to break them. You need to put them in matches. You need to build them up. That is how, if either company is serious about rebuilding their tag team division, then those are two of the teams that you use to accomplish that. Or they could pitch, of course, maybe Lucha Brothers go to WWE and Motor City goes to AEW, and they could both rebuild at the same time. I don't think that's what's happening, especially because of now knowing what we know about the Young Bucks. So if Brian Alvarez is correct,
if that's
then
true,
it sounds like
tricky.
Both teams are going. Might be why GYV, of course, I've seen some things too that, there's that money was far apart for them. And that's why they're not there yet. And LeRon says that TK needs to pay up on GYV. The tag division needs to get younger, and GYV could be the face of the division going forward. I would agree with that. And so Finnegan says the only bad thing AEW did to the Lucha Brothers was never give Penta a singles title run. Man. You were right about that. I would have loved to see. Again, I love them as a tag team, but like while Phoenix was injured, that's what they should have been doing with Penta, and vice versa. And they did it with Phoenix when Penta was injured. They were giving Phoenix a bit of a run, and so they can do it. And I think there was a comment I want to go back to. I want to see if it's still. Let me find it. Hold on. Let's back a bit. Yes, I did forget that Laurent says that Alex has Commander. That is true. Mm-hmm. He does have Commander. And that's what I was asking today. Vikingo should be back when, I don't know what his time frame was, but I hope Vikingo will be back soon. I don't know what.
Maybe.
I don't remember what his time thing was. And then I think the last I heard, Bandito was just waiting on clearance for his wrist, I think is the last update I heard, but that was like a month or so ago. So
you know what? I feel like I heard that he's ready, that they just haven't used him.
Oh,
like I feel like I heard that recently on one of the observers I was listening to or reading.
Not use the
is that he is clear now, finally, but it's just like, when is he going to show up?
Maybe maybe they'll save him for like all out. That would be a good return.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe they'll do that.
They're going to need to do something.
Yes. Eddie says Conan definitely had an influence on the Lucha Brothers leaving. Yes, I think that too. Because Conan is bitter. He is mad at AEW because they are working with CMLL and not AAA. And so he's been stirring the pot for a long time. but he continues to stir the pot. And I do feel like he probably had something to do with it. But now that I know the Young Bucks stuff, I feel like that had a lot to do with it too.
Well, that's troubling to me. And especially when they're in, I know that as everyone else does, is they're in the middle of negotiating theoretically some kind of a deal. So like what for like WBD and Tony and the whole product is in essentially like negotiation limbo. Right
yeah,
now.
and that's what I was saying the other day. I was like, use that WBD money to sign Motor City, but God, use it to sign Lucha Brothers too. Sign all of them. Sign GYP.
And get ROH on a streaming service that works.
Apparently, that's part of that has been.
I know that's part of the hang up.
Apparently it's part of the. Listen, I believe in BJ's reporting.
Me too.
So I agree with him. However, they started a whole new show called Overdrive that features wrestlers. The show is brand new, did not exist, and you're telling me there's not a deal in place? I think they're trying to. I think that's a pretty big, giant sign. Like, hey, we did sign a deal. Here's a new show featuring random AEW wrestlers. It feels like to me they're just waiting on the. I think, and then Tony hinted at a big announcement last night. I was joking, but I kind of believe it that Tony Khan's going to announce it in All In that they have a new deal with WBD. I think that's where it's coming.
I mean, it would make sense on a big pay-per-view to make a big giant announcement. And I mean, like all these companies are packaging now, they're doing what they're doing. So, I mean, that bundle could be like part of like the Max, Disney, like that whole big bundle now. So who knows?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot going on right now.
There is.
Crazy.
Lady B says one thing that people don't talk about enough is WWE also means you're likely getting big merch checks. Young fans are going to love the Lucha match. That's an excellent point. AEW always misses huge merch. AEW does miss huge merch opportunities. They did it with the Sting mask.
AEW does, but WWE also does not sell Lucha masks and stuff like that. John Moxley wanted to sell, he talked about this in one of his interviews, they wanted to sell stuff that like the shield vests, and they wouldn't let them do it. They were like, dude, we'll sell like 1 million of these. They were like, I
mean, things may have changed under the TKO type of stuff.
Maybe, but
maybe that's part of their deal. Like, hey, if you come here, we'll let you sell Lucha masks.
Because I know that
there's
a lot of people that don't understand, like, why can I not get a Rey Fenix mask or Rey Mysterio mask?
Yeah,
like at a WWE show, like I should be able to buy that. That should be a thing. Like,
yeah,
if I was at Arena Mexico, there'd be 8 jillion of them. So
yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Laron says they could put Bandito in the Casino Gauntlet match at All In. You know who? Oh, I was going to go back to it when you were talking about your shirt, and then we got off track. I mentioned it a few weeks ago, but where the hell where's Scorpio Sky? They had vignettes for him, and then they quit showing them. Why? I mean, I have heard some rumors about Tony and Scorpio Sky in the past, so I don't know if it's that. But we had vignettes for like 3 weeks, and then they're gone. Where is he at? Where is Scorpio Sky?
Is that where they put Ricochet? That maybe he comes in?
Yes. I think he probably wins it. Unless they're holding him out for All Out because they need a big debut. They could do that. But I feel like you bring Ricochet
seems
to
like
Wembley.
The most obvious place.
Yes. I think that's where this happens, and that's why they're doing the Casino. But you could bring Bandito back there.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense.
Laron, you're correct. That Conan will be really salty. This man is already salty as it is, but God, it's going to be like more intense.
But do you listen to his podcast?
I don't pay it to. No, I don't, and and now. Laron says,
"Thank you, Laron."
Thank you, Laron. I was going to read your other comment, but I will. I will get to that. Laron says that if there's one thing that Shane could help TK with in AEW, it would be improving their merch situation. That's beyond embarrassing at this point.
I agree.
That's a point that I'd not considered. But that is something.
That is a fair point.
that he could potentially help with. I don't know how hands-on he was with the merch side of things, but even if he wasn't, he also has decades of perspective on merch that nobody else does. So that's a really
it's
interesting
really weird
thought.
too, because when you think about it, it's like the Bucks made so much of their money off of merch, getting their stuff in Hot Topic, for Pete's sake. Like,
yeah.
that's
Speaking of Hot Topic, Swerve's shirt is Swerve's house. He tweeted the other day that Hot Topic was Swerve's house because they are now carrying Who's House shirts.
nice. We're gonna have a whole bunch of non-wrestling fans wearing that shirt around, and we can make fun of them like when they were wearing Bullet Club shirts because they thought they looked cool.
They do look cool.
They do look cool, but it's hilarious when you're like, you too sweet somebody, and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But I do think, I mean, that you're absolutely right though about the merch situation. I completely agree with that. They do not. I mean, I know they let the wrestlers have their own stores and stuff, but in terms of like going to events and stuff where you get like a t-shirt that commemorates being there, or something that's unique to that event, like they are terrible at it.
I'm glad that I at least have a Sting shirt that says.
Well, like I got to buy a Kofi shirt the night of WrestleMania that was special to that night when he won the belt at WrestleMania 35. One of the reasons, like, we stood in line and got Kofi shirts that they just like had waiting. So
well, and that's even when CM Punk came. They had the "I was there" shirts that they sold it, and they ran out. They literally ran out of white though, because when CM Punk first came and they were selling that shirt, they ran out of white t-shirts because of it. So like they can do it. We've seen them do it. Like I don't know why this is not, because look. How do you not look at what Danhausen does and not be like, we can, if they did a fraction of what Danhausen does, they would make so much money. They're losing because Danhausen is like, he just had a 1 hour t-shirt that was like a limited edition available for like an hour on Friday. He has figurines constantly.
They should let him just run their merch.
He always has shirts. Like he's constantly got new, and he uses independent artists to make it for him. He doesn't use AI in his shit. He's very pro, and he's always been that way. But even still, with AEW, he's very pro using independent artists, and he seeks them out to help him come up with merch ideas. But he has so much stuff, and like that's one of the things like Effie has talked about, all the crazy different merch items that he has available. Matt Cardona he broke the night that he got injured. He had a water bottle that he put up for sale. He autographed the water bottle and put it up for sale, and somebody bought it. Like, of course, you don't have to get that extreme with it,
right?
But like, think outside the damn box. Like,
well, you're supposed to be unique. You're supposed to be an alternative. You're looking less and less like an alternative in every possible way every single day.
It's right. Which again goes back to my concerns about Shane McMahon. However.
But
LaRon brings up a very good point. That's a point I had not considered, and that is something that's one of their things that fans talk about all the time is merch selection, and that there's there's never enough merch at their shows, or there's not enough merch at pay-per-views. And I think that wasn't a problem at all at Wembley last year. They didn't have enough merch, or they ran out of stuff. And
I don't know about Wembley, but Forbidden Door was such a pain in the hole. And when we were in Chicago, John was going to get one of the hoodies. They didn't have it, so he had to get it later, and they shipped the damn thing from Chicago. So it was like he had to buy it online from Ireland, even though he was at the event. And then they shipped it from Chicago. It's like, well, if it was there, why didn't you have enough?
Yeah, it doesn't. They don't.
That was your first mega crossover, mega card.
Well, and they're going to be in Cardiff the week before All In. Like they're making their debut in Cardiff. Like, so you're going to need merch for Cardiff. It's your first time ever going there. And then you're going to turn around and be in Wembley. Like, you need to have plenty of merch. I hope that they learn their lesson.
They need to learn from musicians and theaters and stuff.
Well, even we have USVA guy in here all the time talking about New Japan, which and he does the New Japan merch and how they have stuff, and like AEW, when they try to do stuff with AEW doesn't like let them get involved, which is crazy. I don't understand that. You're leaving money on the table.
Yeah,
People are
that's
asking. It's not like people aren't asking for it. Like your fans are like, "Hey, I want to give you money for some merch."
seriously.
Do you want to take my money for merch? Because I have it to
Well,
give
and
to
merch
you.
is such a, it's like almost pure profit. The markup on it is like ridiculous. It's so cheap. Getting that shit manufactured is so cheap compared to what you sell it for. I mean, that's just like that's just money.
Yeah, you can print money. What were the Young Bucks doing before AEW? How much? I mean, even in the beginning of AEW, how much merch they had?
That's what I'm
Beach
saying.
towels. They had beach towels. Like they had.
They
had all
had dolls.
kinds of
They wrote a children's book with JR that they autographed and sent out to people.
So
They
did
did meet and
Hangman
greets.
Page. Hangman Page
Yep.
has a children's book that they also did. Like
Yeah.
there's money there. What are we doing here? Why are
I
we
go to
not?
the theater. I can buy like.
We're going at your 5-year anniversary is in October. You're promoting that. Why is merch still one of your biggest issues?
Right.
Who have you not? You've hired so many different people that used to work for WWE. You have not hired one person that can help you figure out your merch problems.
Seriously. They had a new shirt printed at WrestleMania and ready for me to buy. Like,
right. Baseball teams, sports teams do it. Super
all the
Bowls,
time.
like Super Bowls and World Series have shirts ready to go.
You know, it was really cool. I actually this year, because the draft was in Detroit, the guys that do the jerseys for the kids as they get drafted, it's a like super fast process. So they, on our news channel, they showed this company that does the jerseys and how fast they get them. Like, basically, like they have the jerseys waiting, they have the person's name, they put it on there, like they roll it through, but it's like, so it's ready for the kid by the time he gets to the stage to like sit there or whatever, and he's wearing a jersey. And it takes like, I think, oh man, it was like 5 minutes or something. It was so cool. It was very rad to see how fast that they could just be like, okay, we got the name, we put it in this machine, we've got this jersey all set. It's
like, and when you go
silly.
to Turner Field, where the Braves play, you can watch, and I think a lot of baseball stadiums like this, you can watch the jerseys come through as they make personalized jerseys on the spot.
You know,
you can't print out some t-shirts.
He's got the Jaguar store. Like, what is he doing?
Right. Have somebody go talk to somebody in the Jags merch department and in the NFL merch department and be like, hey, how can we do what you're doing on a wrestling scale?
Should be easy enough. You don't need nearly what you would need in an NFL game, but still.
Yes, and this is a good point too. LaRon says there is no women's replica titles, although I saw a replica of a TBS title and a Mercedes post on IG that's since been deleted.
That sucks. And that's bad.
That is bad.
I'm going to have to downvote that. 0 stars.
Yeah, and Nikki pointed out, that when we went to Revolution, Doug said that they ran out of his size quick, and he went to each merch table. I don't remember what he was trying to get. It might have been a Sting shirt. Yeah, I can't remember either. But like, he went to multiple merch tables, and they did not have his size. And I was like, and it's a common size. I mean, of course, it's a common size, but you should pack extra of that, especially at a pay-per-view. And if it's something like a Sting shirt that
that was Sting's retirement, no less.
Yeah.
That was his retirement show.
And that's what we all did. We all ordered Sting shirts from Shop AEW or Pro Wrestling, whichever one had the Sting shirts. And it was like we all ordered because we weren't sure what they were going to have in stock at Revolution, and we didn't want to. We wanted to wear Sting shirts to the event, but then we didn't want to stand in a really long merch line and like miss half the show because we were trying to buy a Sting, an I Was There shirt, but then we were also like, are they even going to have enough there for us to buy? So we all just were like, we all bought our shirts like 6 weeks in advance so that we made sure that they would be here in time.
They could have made so much more money selling you those shirts at the venue?
They did. I think they did have something at the venue, but it was way too crowded to have to deal with. And
Well,
I
no,
was there.
I've seen
But
the
yeah.
merch lines. It's a cluster everywhere. Every stadium I've been at, it's something of a cluster. The merch
is.
situation.
And I feel bad because I know the merch people there are doing the best that they can.
Well,
and
yeah, it's not their fault.
And I was like, and their hands are tied with what they have available. And I know
Right.
that it's, but then of course they're the ones who get blamed for it because they're the ones.
Well, shoot the
selling
messenger,
it.
right? I mean,
Yeah. Finnegan says Sam is finding new questions to ask for Tony as we speak. I was thinking about
she's
that last night. I
finding
was
new
like,
reasons to not get called on as we speak.
The all-in call should be coming up soon.
Any minute now. I can't believe
like,
that's only like 2
I'm not
Sundays
gonna
away.
ask you about women's wrestling. I'm gonna ask you what your merch situation
What's your
is.
merch deal? What the F?
What is happening? Why don't you
Why?
sell women's replica belts? Why don't you sell masks of your luchadors? Why don't you sell Beast Mortos masks? Have you seen how cool they look? Why don't you sell? What is your merch?
That
situation?
Julia Hart hat? My friend has one. Like,
Well,
why are you not selling those? Like, it's a different
the Julia
design.
Hart hat,
It's a similar.
the Julia Hart's hat came from. She went to an independent hat maker.
Yeah, there's a lady. There's a
follow
custom.
her. Yeah, she custom makes hats, so I think that's why, because they can't legally sell those
Probably
hats.
not, but they could feature that artist then. Maybe get a kickback.
But they like doing AI now.
I know. Oh.
Besides Mel Coleman, just about they do so much AI stuff. And then like one of the artists that used to make a bunch of stuff for Best Friends, like all his stuff is on clearance. And he was like, I think it's because of Best Friends not being together, but it's also interesting that they're having a rise in AI shirts, and then they're taking off independent artists. I think another independent artist said that her merch was taken down from their store. So it's very, I hate. Oh, Nikki said also roast him about Scorpio Sky.
Yeah.
But his question is going to be like, just watch the casino battle. Watch. He won't be in it, but he'll just say, well, you never know who could show up at the casino.
You don't know.
You never know who could show up at the casino battle royal or casino, whatever they're royale or whatever the hell they're calling it. I'm like, listen, you showed me vignettes and told me he was coming back. Then you quit showing them. I have not heard that he was injured again. Haven't heard any of that. Where did he go? Did the Young Bucks take him? They were like, the Young Bucks are like, we're not getting paid, so Scorpio's not going to be on TV either. What are y'all doing? But on a more positive note.
Yes.
Is Kyle Fletcher. Which, if you have watched the show for a long period of time, you know that Mel and I love Kyle Fletcher. We love Aussie Open. We have talked about when they were both in BOSJ, and we got to see them do single stuff because we were already fans of them as a tag team wrestler. Then we saw them in BOSJ, and we're like, whoa, they're really good singles wrestlers too. So Mel and I have known, and we have been on the Kyle Fletcher train for a while. But now apparently everybody else is on the Kyle Fletcher train. We're welcome. There's plenty of room on the Kyle Fletcher.
We're glad to have you. I was so fortunate when they were in Detroit the last time when Dynamite was here. Kyle Fletcher made an appearance and got a huge pop here. Everybody knew who he was. Like,
awesome.
It was, it was so great.
Kyle has really been putting it together. Like, he's already a good promo, but they don't really let him cut them. But man, they have let him cut some lately, and they have been excellent babyface promos. He is very good at it, and he's really started to come into this protostar character. And he's just having, like, the matches have always been good with Kyle.
He's leveling up, though. He is definitely
he's putting it all together now. Like, I was kind of, Mark Davis went out with an injury at, I think it was Wrestle Dream, so he's been gone almost an entire year now. And it kind of just leaves Kyle Fletcher there. And I was like, well, Kyle's a really good wrestler. He'll do fine. But now he's finally, like, hitting his stride. And he's getting the promos. He's got the character. He's, of course, got the matches. And now he's elevating. Like, that match on Wednesday with MJF was so good. And, like, and you see, like, the crowd, like when he went up into the crowd, and like you see the picture that we used today, and it was funny because our friend Matthew was there, and he was like, Kyle, and I saw it, and I was like, wait, that's Matthew. So we went back, we were around it and paused it, and right behind Kyle in this picture, you can't see him, but I took a picture and I posted it to Twitter.
Your screenshot, I was like, oh my god, that's so cool.
It was like Kyle Fletcher's right here, and then like later on, he was like, Bryan Danielson and Jeff Jarrett are right here. And then I saw it and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I think he's right there. So we rewound it back and it's like Jeff Jarrett is standing like right in front of Matthew. And I was like, how did you get so lucky to get? I was like, you got really close to them. But like, that's a match that like really, I think people find like Kyle has had some really good matches lately. But I guess for whatever reason,
he's leveling up. It reminds me of when like Hangman had that Suzuki match and he started to like sort of where he's starting to like hit that peak where he's like, I mean, the whole thing is that MJF is going around beating up Ospreay's boys right now. Like today, Oku, the reason he was walking around London is that he's going to go mess up Oku because he's one of Will's boys.
Yeah, and Oku is the one that Oku, I said that reminded me.
Oh my god, Kyle was
I watched that promo and I was like, wait, that was the promo that I was like, that was the match I still haven't gone back to watch, was Michael Oku versus Ospreay. And Oku beat Ospreay in front of Tony Khan. And they had like a 5-star match from what everybody said.
Oh yeah, that was like Meltzer would not shut up about that match.
I forgot that I forgot all about the match and I heard that promo and I was like, wait, that's that match I need to go see.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is kind of like MJF is on this tour of taking out people, which is really,
and Kyle totally did his part. Like he was like, you might think you're gonna wreck his boys, but you're not easily.
No, Kyle put up a fight. He did. He just stepped up his game.
I'm really glad that everybody got to see that.
So I see. Yeah, that's what that's the conversation I kept seeing this week was Kyle Fletcher's a star. Kyle Fletcher's so good. I'm like, yes, thank you. Welcome. The one thing that I do not see people talking about though is while his star is rising, where does this leave Mark Davis? What happens to Aussie Open? Aussie Open is when they got injured, when Mark got injured last year, Aussie Open was one of the top 5 best tag teams in the world. And that is not,
they would have been
hyperbole.
They would have been in the Wembley match had he not gotten hurt, basically. Is what
right. Happened, so. And they also had, no, they dropped the titles.
That's right.
They dropped the titles to MJF and Adam Cole.
That's right. You're right. Yeah.
Then they wrestled at Wrestle Dream. Mark broke his hand, right? I think that was what the injury was.
Yeah.
And so Mark has been out. Kyle, Nikki said Kyle was doing because Kyle does Q&A. He did a Q&A on Twitter that I saw, but apparently he was doing
Did Adam Cole and MJF kill the tag team division in AEW?
I might have to investigate that and write an article about it because that is a good question.
Because when you think about, now that you say that to me that way, and they dropped the titles to that silly thing that a lot of us were questioning, like it's
both. I think it's both. I think it's FTR did because FTR
oversaturation with FTR. They always go back to the well with them too much when Mark Briscoe can basically tag with anybody.
Right. They also, we know the stories about what was happening, that every time they were told they were going to drop the title, they had a huge fit.
No do job.
They threatened, no do job. They threatened to quit if they lost at Wembley. These are all stories that have been
They are notorious divas from what I hear.
So, yes, I think it's a combination of using FTR way too much and holding and not letting other teams get over. Lyric was correct when she said that last year, and people went after her, including Dax.
Well, and of course, because hitting that close to the mark is if he has to
God
bite
forbid
back,
anybody have an opinion
where
they don't. Anybody have an opinion where they don't like FTR, then your question about your wrestling fandom by them. But so I would say yes, but I do. That is a very good point.
As you were telling me that.
I think the link between both of those were reasons
That's
because
a huge turning point for
they
the belt.
did not drop those titles. They made them, and they had the ROH tag titles. MJF never once went to Honor Club, which I talked about all the time.
Right.
That they
Not
held
one
they
time.
held that tag team. They held that tag team division back by not having. So because they kept having, I was like, just have MJF drop the title. It's fine. We'll redo the story later. You only put the titles on them to begin with because you had to do something because they were so over. Aussie Open had only had the titles for like a month when they dropped them. And then
because I remember us talking about how we were mad that they were making them essentially they were a placeholder because they were such a great tag team. And what are you doing?
Yeah, it was a nightmare. And Nikki said FTR is the tag version of Jericho.
I
do not disagree.
Sure,
others will, but
you're not off. You're not that far off right now. If Dax came out and said, "Hey guys," I would not even be surprised. I know, and you guys already had beef with them. So.
Yeah, I already had beef with them, and this just makes it way worse. And they, somebody tweeted that the Outrunners are what FTR would be if FTR knew how to have or like to have fun.
I think I saw that you had liked it.
I retweeted it.
I was like, I love you, Sam.
Funny.
I love you.
It's funny because it's true.
That's what I was laughing for. I was like, she's so cute.
I'm just reading.
And right.
Somebody else said it, and I just agreed with it.
I'm just endorsing this position.
I'm just agreeing with it.
My name is Sam, and I approve this message.
I do. But going back, Nikki said she misses Mark Davis so much. But what I was gonna say was, so Kyle was doing a Q&A on Instagram, and somebody asked him about Mark, and he said Mark is learning how to do pottery. And he's busy taking pottery classes. And I can support that.
No shame in that.
No, there's not. I can support that. I am glad.
Ceramics and pottery, man, it can be very relaxing to you go to those workshops where you paint the thing. It can be very relaxing. Whatever brings him zen and gets him healthy.
Nikki said that we need that Thick King back in our lives.
We do. Indeed.
I miss them so much. And Kyle. Yeah, I need Kyle to do both. Yeah, Kyle can do both.
He can do both.
Listen, how many times have we seen New Day where they have been their group, they've done tag teams, and they have also supported each other in their singles runs, and they were very supportive of each other. We can do this here. Not everybody has to turn on everybody, but yeah, so that's one of the questions I thought I keep thinking of. It's of course Kyle is the star and you can't thwart that, but
right.
What if Mark Davis is healthy? What if he's cleared? What if he's ready to come back at Wembley? What do you do? Do you stop Kyle's this run he's having to put him in a non-existent tag team division?
Yeah.
I mean, Aussie Open is a team that could turn your division around. We've seen it. We've seen how good they are. That is somebody that you could have great matches with. You could potentially put the titles on them. I mean, because obviously Top Flight and that's the thing. Top Flight and Private Party have done similar things where they've both had significant injuries and they've come back and been tag teams. And so now we have Mark Davis, who has this really big injury, and that's allowed Kyle to do what Kyle has taken that and just ran with it. But yeah, so then that's what I keep thinking is what do you do with Aussie Open? What do you bring Mark Davis back and just have him do singles wrestling? And because he was good at it, I mean, in BOSJ, he had some really great singles matches, but Aussie Open is one of the best tag teams in the last few years, and your tag team division is sorely lacking.
Help.
So
it's anemic.
Does it need more? But I think that to me, it feels like Tony that tag team wrestling is not a priority for him, and that he will continue to push Kyle and not do anything with Aussie Open. And what does he do with what do you do with Mark Davis then? You just put Mark Davis and ROH and just put him in
Singles?
singles matches? Do you put him in a new tag team? Like he's been gone for a year. What do
Or
you
maybe,
do with
I
him?
don't know, add him to BCC or something, I guess, because he'd fit in with them maybe.
And I guess
Something like that. I mean, put him in a faction.
I was gonna say, if Kyle were to stay with the Don Callis family, then of course you could just bring Mark
Which
Davis
it doesn't.
in.
It looks like
But
United
Kyle-
Empire is going to have a little sect here in the AEW.
Yeah, that's what it's looking. Well, and then that would make sense
more
because
and more like they're all the Empire,
and
guys
that would make sense because then you have
Mark Davis
you've got Mark Davis right on the way in, and you can insert him right into United Empire if they do their little whatever their like mini version of it, kind of like Bullet Club, how they have they have representation all over the place. United Empire can do the same thing, and so
I mean, they do the.
Yeah.
Even when he was when he showed up in Detroit, that's what everyone was doing. We were all doing it. Like,
yeah, right.
Reflex.
It is. Yeah. He said, oh, yeah. Nikki said that he said Mark sent him a voice note about his pottery class. I wish I could hear it.
Me too. I bet it was adorable.
It is. So I guess he's
gotta be tough for both of them too. Because if your friend is like, you don't want your
like, what do you do? If Mark Davis probably sees this and like, clearly Mark Davis knows that Kyle has always known that Kyle is a star, and he's finally getting it. And then Mark's probably like, I'm almost back, and now everybody sees it, and Kyle's about to get pushed to the moon. And where does that leave me? And do people remember Aussie Open? Because everything is about, they don't talk about Aussie Open. It's Kyle Fletcher because maybe they're purposely not talking about it so that when Mark Davis returns, like it could be,
they can do a big like reunification deal for some reason, for some good reason that's in storyline.
And I was thinking about it. I was like, well, I guess you could bring him in, like maybe Kyle's getting beat down again and Mark comes in to save him. I feel like Wembley would be a good place to bring Mark in, but then what do? Do you have Aussie Open but you don't want to push, you don't want to hold back what Kyle is doing, but then you're also forcing Mark to have to immediately come back and basically be on Kyle's level, and that's not really fair because he's been injured since October, and so I don't know what they do there. On the one hand, like the tag team division desperately needs Aussie Open, but their tag team division is practically non-existent. Kyle has made himself a star.
Well, they need to keep. They need to keep this. Tony is terrible with momentum. Don't kill it. Like, make sure you keep the. Like, just don't. Yeah. Don't mess this one up.
Right, because we've seen it happen several times. Please. And then later he has a very good, I will join you in this manifestation of Ricochet, Kyle Fletcher, Michael hologram in the final four of the Casino Gauntlet match.
I saw her right there. I was like, yes.
I'm it. Yeah, because I've heard that there's talk about bringing Michael Oku into Cardiff.
They should. I've heard.
And then maybe doing something with him at All In, which it sounds like. And again, that plays into the Will Ospreay's boy story, which would be a good way to bring Mark Davis back. Then you have all of that.
Well, and you're sort of pushing Will Ospreay into being the head of his own faction and away from Don Callis. So, well, then in a more
I guess they could, if they've signed or are signing Michael Oku, then you bring him in and put him in. You put him in with United Empire. Yeah. That would make sense too, because
they could very well. I mean, they could very well, like with Oku, and maybe if Mark Davis comes back, like they could very well just be like, "Hey, F you, we've got our own empire here. We don't need your family." And you can get
that's been the conversation that has come up a lot is Takeshita.
Oh gosh, the Takeshita conversation.
And now the conversation is also,
should he just stay in Japan
for a little while and continue what he's doing and win the fans over there? And he's got the DDT stuff that he does, which, we talked about last week, that DDT is not respected among a lot of the New Japan fans.
No, but Takeshita is on fire. He is like, every single match he's put on in G1 has been excellent.
He's not had a bad match. Him and Oleg, like, because I got caught up. We're caught up. Him and so spoiler alert if you have not watched. We were caught up. We got caught up last night and we watched like 3 matches. But his match with Bolton Oleg was so good. And I'm not really mad at Oleg getting the win here because, and I know people were like, but if Takeshita is leaving, then Oleg is staying, then Oleg is the one that he's a young lion. He was a young lion.
He's proven himself pretty hard. I mean, he is so strong. He has been doing great matches. That match with Jeff Cobb was just dang.
Match was so
they're two strong ass dudes just throwing each other around. I was like, this is ridiculous right now.
Yeah, that match was insane.
I'm excited for him and Callum Newman, honestly. Yeah. I think they've done a really nice job with the Yuya Uemura news is absolutely devastating.
I hate that for him so much.
Finally that match yesterday. Was it yesterday?
I didn't watch the match until I heard about the news before I watched the match. So I went
I had already watched. I just heard the news just recently this morning.
I saw the news last night and had not watched the match, and I was already disappointed, like not even seeing the match, just because Yuya has he's struggled since coming back to New Japan and finding his spot, being who he was before, showing what he's learned from Excursion. He's finally putting it all together. He had a great tournament, and I hate so much that he got injured.
I mean, the match to put him out was like, when I heard that match ended up like taking him out of the tournament, I was like I was bummed this morning. I was like, what? No,
because when we went back and watched, so we went into the match knowing he would got injured, and then you see him holding that arm, and I was like, why did they let the match continue? I know that Red Shoes asked him, and he said no, but I'm like, but
you gotta save wrestlers from themselves. They're always gonna say no.
And I guess they were just wanting to get to the win, but Nikki was like, why didn't they just end it in that one spot instead of having Tsuji kicked out? They should have just cut it off there, but he continued to wrestle. He couldn't use his arm. I mean, it was cool because he got the headbutts in and stuff like that. And of course, he gets
and Walker was selling it so well because he didn't know if it was really injured or not. He was like, he just beat him one-handed, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's amazing. And then it's like, but I mean, you could kind of tell from Walker. I in retrospect, now that I'm thinking back on you could kind of tell that I think that he knew that it wasn't selling.
And I think that's because going into that match, already knowing he was injured and listening to Walker, I was that Walker felt. And so I just was like, I hope, because we don't know what the injury is. They haven't said. They just said they determined that he can't finish the tournament. He's forfeiting the rest of the tournament. His next match was against Bolton Oleg, Oleg is getting those 2 points, and we'll put him at 8 points. And so, but I hope that whatever the damage is, that continuing that match, even though it was maybe 2 or 3 minutes, I don't even think it was 5 minutes with the injury, at least from where it appeared to be injured. I just hope that him continuing the match did not make the injury worse. But it was hard. His arm was looked like it was swelling. And
he was unable to use it. I was like, oh, please be good selling.
Was unfortunately not.
But I could now that I'm thinking about it and then hearing it this morning, I was like, thinking back and listening to Walker's voice, he knew.
I think he did too. And Callum was and you notice Callum was quiet. He didn't
say anything because, and that's actually,
he knew.
I think that would track actually for a talent would never call another talent out on something like that.
Right. And
he went silent. You're right.
He did. Callum got quiet. And
what a pain. I'm glad he went out on this. That was an awesome match. It's just
the match was fantastic, and he got his 2 points. But I hate it for him.
Kevin Kelly's monitor went out on that one. Seriously,
apparently so.
That's bullshit.
She said, I'm so confused why AEW hasn't mentioned him killing it in the G1, not like they can't show footage. I mean, they can't even acknowledge that Athena made 600 days as champion, but I get your point, and I agree with you. They should be, especially because of the stuff that they're talking about with the Don Callis family. You were talking about Kyle Fletcher Will Ospreay, and both of them and Takeshita is in that. Like, why are you not talking about what Takeshita is doing in the G1?
Well, they're supposed to be a partner of yours. You want to encourage people to watch the G1. You've got a talent of your own you've got your talent in there. So why are you not being
you have Ishii
have Don Callis being like, our guy's over there destroying the New Japan scene, and he's destroying Kenny Omega's legacy because he's looking better than Kenny was. That's why he's the alpha. Like,
right there for you.
I just did it. There, I just wrote it for you off top of my head.
It's right there. Right, yeah, it's frustrating.
And Don Callis can sell that because he worked the New Japan table. So
yes,
he knows.
Yes.
He knows how Don Callis. No one Don Callis is better than Don Callis. And he's supposed to be an invisible hand, so why would he not be like saying that he's responsible for how successful he is being?
Yeah,
in the G1, like that's just a layup.
That makes sense.
That's a great point.
Lady V said, I found out about Athena through you guys last week. I think, what a shame.
Yes. It is a shame.
Disclosure, I've never watched ROH, so I had no clue. Right. There are plenty of people who do not watch and do not subscribe, and they want to know where Athena is. Athena is about to break Samoa Joe's record.
Well, what's really sad about that is that they've put so many other ROH talents on Dynamite where you would be able to know them and not her.
Right. And I got so excited last night because I saw Lexi in the ring, and I thought Athena or Billy was, I thought Athena or Billy was answering Sheeta's open, like her, not her open challenge, but I saw Lexi and thought that's why she was there, but it's because she was doing backstage stuff and the Stokely Chris Statlander stuff. But I just saw, because now I associate Lexi with Athena and Billy, so I thought, oh, she's coming out to introduce Athena or Billy because they're going to wrestle Sheeta. So I should have known better. I played myself because they're not allowed on AEW programming.
It's just so stupid. Plus, they again, that's leaving money on the table with the whole situation with the 600 days thing.
Yes. Yes, TK has often asked about Athena.
Sam has.
A lot of people have asked about her. It's come up a couple times or several times. I think one of the times he got
pissy at you that we played on here was you asking about her, I think.
Yeah, he got pissy about but one of the things, Athena, one of the theories is that he is using Athena and her title run to get ROH onto TV.
That would be
I think that's it. However, our argument is you can do both. Because we've seen,
they can do both with the men, but not Athena. They've been keeping. See, this is the whole thing. Is he knows she's valuable because he's been keeping her as the anchor behind the paywall.
Yes, he has been. If you want to see Athena wrestle, then
you have to pay for it.
To Honor Club, which is not a bad thing to do.
No,
Athena is doing it. But when you are constantly letting the men wrestle on, when the ROH champion men wrestle more on AEW television they do on Honor Club, and they are not defending their titles on either brand. That's
right. Why should I subscribe? I don't need to because I can watch them on. And we've got too many belts flying around here, so the ROH belts need to go back to ROH where they belong, so they can be defended and meaningful.
They ununified the trio titles. Granted, I think the whole reason they ununified them, because at first when before we found out part of what they were doing, I was like, did they ununify him because Christian is too good for Honor Club? But then he showed up in Collision 2 weeks in a row, so that can't be it because that's where they're filming. So I think obviously they just wanted to put the titles on the Von Erichs and Dustin Rhodes, which I have no problem with.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
that was pretty. That was beautiful.
Athena should be on TV. There's no argument even if you are using her to sell ROH and be like, hey, if we're doing this TV deal, ROH has to come too. We have this amazing champion named Athena. She has the entire women's division revolves around her. She anchors the entire company. On top of that, she has been champion for 600 days. She's getting ready. She's the longest reigning women's champion ever in ROH history. She is getting ready to break Samoa Joe's record, and she will be the longest reigning world champion in male or female. Like, you should talk about that on TV, or you should be like, hey, do you want to see Athena break Samoa Joe's record? You should subscribe to to Honor Club.
Right?
Like, they're not even doing that. Like, they
Nope.
don't talk about
They never
subscribing
do.
to Honor Club. And
Not even on their own broadcast during the shows. Like,
yeah. And see, that Lady V says, but you can at least show highlights with the you have to pay to see her. It's also silly. It's
agreed.
beyond frustrating. It is probably, besides the women's division in general and how they've been booking it, that has probably been my biggest pet peeve over the last year, is that Athena is not booked on TV, and neither is Billie Starkz. And then Billie Starkz dropped her title in her first title defense, and then Red Velvet has not been on. I mean, I know it's been 2 weeks, but Red Velvet has also not been on TV either. Like, what are we doing here? I think I said that a lot. I was on a ROH podcast, and I think I said, what are we doing here? Like every other Senate. If you were playing a drinking game that says drink every time says Sam or Collins said, what are we doing here? You will be drunk in 30 minutes.
The first 30 minutes of the podcast. So please don't play that. Drink responsibly. Thank you again,
Laron. Yeah, thank you again. Laron says it's a shame that female title holders in ROH can't be seen on AEW TV. At least let Athena and Red Velvet wrestle on Rampage occasionally.
Even on Rampage. I mean, I would love it if it was Dynamite or Collision, but I'll take Rampage.
I mean, I watch Rampage anyway, but I'll take. I mean, of course, I'll take Collision because I cover it every week. I do live coverage,
so TV,
I get excited.
It's an hour on real TV that people can watch and get a taste of what she's about, and you're 100% right there. It's something they need. It's the great mystery of the whole thing.
Well, and the thing I think
it only lends more credence in my mind. Like I am now wholly convinced that it's because Tony thinks that keeping her there is the draw of it. And then why are you not like giving us, like you're talking about here, preview them on the freaking TV to get people to sign up? You're like, if you like what you just saw, you can sign up for Honor Club.
Right. Why are you not telling me that? Why are you not telling anyone that she said, this is a historic reign for Athena for multiple reasons, and you can't take 2 seconds when Mark Briscoe is on TV wrestling, like, hey, Mark Briscoe he retained his title at Death Before Dishonor. Speaking of champions in ROH, Athena has now reached 600 days as champion. Literally, that's the bare minimum, and you couldn't do that. You can't post a graphic saying that she has been champion for 600 days.
Weird.
ROH
seems like a blind spot. It seems like a blind spot.
Yeah. Why do you? It's not that hard. And then you retweet people constantly. You can't even retweet Athena saying she's been champion.
Yeah,
that's like the very bare minimum, and you can't even retweet that. Yeah. And I was like, what? It makes no sense to me at all. And this is a fair point from Hassan, is glass half full. I think Athena feeling like a forbidden wrestler on AEW will make her debut at AEW more bigger, perhaps even winning the world championship on her return to AEW. I would like to be as optimistic, but it is hard to, with the way they have shown me with women's wrestling before. I mean, I guess I'd be more optimistic now with the way that they are holding things with Mercedes.
Been doing a little better, yeah.
So I guess I would be more optimistic than I was at this time last year. But it's just so annoying. And then Laron said that he mentioned Rampage instead of Collision, since ROH and Collision tape together. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I will take her wherever I can get. Do you know how many people watch Battle of the Belts 10 because they got to see Athena? So many people were like, I don't watch Battle of the Belts anymore, but Athena is going to wrestle, so I'm going to watch it. Like, that tells you people don't give a shit about Battle of the Belts, but if Athena's going to be on it, they will tune in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that tells you everything you need to know.
Elster was saying on the ones I was catching up with that they'll probably do away with Battle of the Belts eventually and it's like,
I think they will too. I think once the deal is over.
You and I have had that discussion, but he sounded like they were going to switch it up, and if they were needing anything else.
I mean, at the time it started, there were 4 pay-per-views. That was it. So WBD is like, hey,
We
Let's
want
do this once a quarter.
12 and
We'll defend the titles, except for nobody defends the titles anymore. Hardly. It's usually either title eliminator matches, or the titles weren't changing hands, and then you got the vacant title last time with the Von Erichs and Dustin Rhodes winning they won the newly vacated titles, which is nice to see, but like there were months and months without any type of title changes. Those shows are pointless. Don't do anything. Lauren says, if Athena is the star of ROH, why wasn't she manning all the pay-per-views? She's a record-breaking champion. They don't even bother to mention on TV. I mean, she has main evented twice this year. She was technically the double main event at Death Before Dishonor, but she should not have been. She should have been the main event, because that's been the story, is her and Queen Aminata have been the story since before Supercard. And I love Mark Briscoe, and him and Roddy do have history, but there was no reason for that match to be the main event other than the fact that it was for the World Championship. There's no reason. Trust me, insane. Finkin says she's probably main eventing the December pay-per-view. Yes, because I think we talked about it before, that Billy is probably going to be the one to dethrone her at Final Battle. They are planting the seeds. They did it it was very obvious on Thursday that those seeds are being planted for Final Battle, that Billy will be the one to defeat her finally. They're going back. This whole story basically goes back over Billy's entire run. And she's reverting back, like she stripped Billy of her minion diploma, and she is now back to being minion 400,000, and what is it? I forget 400. I used to know that number off the top of my head, and now I blanked on what the other, and a third, but she's back to that.
Yeah, and with all the things you have to keep in your head, you can't remember. God,
I know, they just talked about it. Just heard her say it on Thursday.
You'll remember it as soon as you don't need to anymore.
Of course. But yeah, so they're definitely setting up for that, which is a good story, which I guess if they're bringing it to, if ROH gets on television, and that's a good story to tell. You have, the protege failed in December of last year. In that time, she became the inaugural women's champion, and she lost it in the first title defense. And Athena thinks less of her and has stripped her of one of the things she gave her, and is basically going to make her work her way back up. And Billy's going to start being resentful again, and Billy's going to finally, and then that's going to lead to the match
I like it.
at Final Battle, which is a good story, but it's just frustrating. And then, like Lauren said, like, they haven't talked about Red Velvet being she's the new champion, and she's not. AEW doesn't acknowledge that, but Mark Briscoe is on TV every week, and so is the Kingdom. It's constantly, they're in the crowd with their belts.
Yeah.
And Vinkins says the Mark Briscoe match was built 3 days before the pay-per-view, they did that last year when Athena versus Willow should have been the main event. They did finally announce it, but the original thing was Mark and Claudio, and it was like on basically no build at all, which is what they keep doing, and it's frustrating. And Lauren says that Mark is part-time in ROH at best. He shouldn't be main eventing any pay-per-views. That's Tony's whole argument for keeping Athena behind the paywall. Lauren, I 1,000,000% agree with you. They definitely should be. They should be having her main event everything.
Well, if they're going to keep her behind there, then she needs to be the main eventer. I mean, that's just the bottom. I mean, if she is so valuable to you that you refuse to put her on TV, even though you put every other champion from that promotion on your TV, then she should be the main event every single freaking pay-per-view.
Yeah. She is the draw. She is the attraction.
I mean, you can't have it like you such a cherry picker when it comes to this stuff.
It is.
You can't do that.
I do want to go back to a comment that USPA guy made about Takeshita.
Yes.
That he said that Takeshita is doing very well and is gaining more notoriety and fans in Japan. He would be smart to go back to Japan as soon as his contract in AEW is done. Agreed. I do agree.
And I know that it's coming. There's rumors that it's coming up in the fall.
Oh, really?
I guess. But I mean, that could be
I
total
hadn't heard that. I don't know what, because didn't he only sign did he only
I
sign a
know
1
that
year?
he had
Did he only sign a
expressed, if
1
you
year deal?
remember a few months ago, he had expressed there were talks about him expressing frustration with his booking because he was essentially...
that was but he said that in a kayfabe paper that
okay.
make posts,
all right.
and so that's why people weren't really sure what to make of that, because it was a paper that mostly does interviews in kayfabe.
Okay, so
because kayfabe is obviously still very big in Japan and a big part of what they're doing. So there probably were some truth, because as we've said, even in kayfabe, generally there's some truth to those comments. So but he would have only, because didn't Takeshita only become All Elite last year? So he would have only, I don't think they would have signed
maybe
a 1 year deal. I mean, I haven't heard. I mean, maybe he is. Daniel Garcia, his contract is coming up in October. Okay. So there's that. And Nikki said she bets he misses Cinnabon. I bet he does miss Cinnabon.
I bet he does too. But
I think that
I'm with the group of people that think he should stay in Japan right now, because I just don't want to see him come back here and be like,
yeah. I don't want him with Don Callis. I want find a title for him.
Find something for him.
I love Okada so much. Take that Continental title from him and give it to Takeshita.
There you go.
That belt's not doing anything. It's not doing anything for Okada. And Eddie's not going to be able to fight. Eddie's not going to be able to challenge for it for a very long time.
Yeah, right.
So might as well just let Takeshita have it for a little bit and actually make it mean something other than just being a prop.
It'd be a fun match, actually. I really enjoy that match.
Yeah, and I can't tell. They seem to be they had been seeming to hint at Hangman versus Okada, but they keep hinting at Hangman versus Jeff Jarrett. I don't want Hangman and Jeff Jarrett at Wembley. Save it for All Out.
You might be getting it anyway, but yeah, I think All Out's probably the better choice for that.
And also the other comment that Nikki wanted me to make sure that I brought up was Walker. Speaking of Walker, was Walker with it? It was Dick Togo, and he got involved, and I can't remember now. I just blanked. I don't think it was Takeshita. But Walker screamed into the microphone, "Dick-to-dick contact." It made me laugh so hard, way harder than it should have. But Nikki said he said it with his whole chest. Chris Charlton has rubbed off on him so much. In the best way possible.
In the best way. I really enjoy. Walker has done an incredible job with this tournament. I am enjoying him. He is making people that are on the table that I don't want to hear tolerable.
Except Gabe Kidd, because Gabe Kidd talks way too fucking much, and not even Walker can save that.
Well, he
does make it bearable.
He does his best. Gabe tries to hijack it a lot. He's very Chris Jericho with that. And it's enough.
Take him off commentary. I can't.
Just enough.
I already don't care for him in general. I don't care for this character.
His matches have been great, and I will give him all
matches
the credit
are great,
but I just can't. He's not when you compare him to someone even when Hanare was doing it, he was way more or maybe I'm thinking of Goto. I just feel and then Jeff Cobb's really good at it, of course, and ELP's really good at it, and people like that. But I don't know. It's just he's not.
ELP's match last night was so good. The one again. I mean, the last two. I mean, he got eliminated, and then obviously he won last night. But those two, I'm so glad that ELP is finally finding his way.
Yeah, and a lot of love from the fans.
And then Goto, of course, has been killing it. Goto's been having fantastic matches.
Goto's.
Walker said, I just thought about this when we were talking about Walker. Walker tweeted and said that his goal is for New Japan to mean so much to New Japan that when he dies, he gets the white New Japan logo, because every time they post that, something bad has happened. And he said he wants them to do that when he dies. And somebody was like, "You are far too young to be worrying about that right now."
Seriously.
They were like,
"All right, man, you hang on. You're going to be doing our G1 announcing for a long, long time now, all right?"
That's right. It was Shingo. The dick-to-dick contact was Shingo. That's right. Who I love. And I love that Shingo, his post-match speech the other night was talking about how, because he's 41 years old, and how he's like, you can still have dreams at 40 and 50 and 60 and 70 and 80 and even 90, and the only person that stops those dreams is you. So I was like, you tell him, Shingo. I was like, believe in yourself the way that Shingo believes in himself. Shingo believes in you.
That Rampage Dragon is not kidding.
He's not.
I mean,
best.
That's really nice. That's
really good. That was like, that's a really nice thing to hear. Thank you, Shingo. Thank
really,
you for reminding me.
Like promo to cut.
It is, and he gives his post-match in the ring comments, and he just said, and I was like, that is a very nice.
Another amazing participant. Hasn't put on a bad match this entire thing. He never. I don't think that guy knows how to wrestle bad.
No, I love him so much. We do love Shingo, a dream supporter king. He is a dream supporter king.
Yeah, he right on.
We love him. Ben Kim says, like, I'm not going to be super upset. I'm not going to be upset if Shingo becomes IWGP champion in the future. I want it to happen because he should. Happen. Exactly, it should happen.
He should. He should. He's definitely one of those people that
he's phenomenal. And like you said,
he should definitely get it.
He never, like you said, he's never had a bad match. I've never seen him have one. He's great on the mic.
He's really compelling. He's such a good wrestler. He's great in ring stories. He's always bringing it. Like, he should be a staple there. They should he's great. He's really, really great. I'm glad that they brought him in. And
Ben Kim's being a Naito hater over here.
I know.
They brought up a good point, because I was watching Speaking of Strong Style, and somebody asked if they end up having Naito, win the stay champion. Wait, what was the question? It was either, do they think Naito just wins the tournament, because that hasn't happened in a while, and like how they play that, which I guess it's something they could do, but I just don't know how. I love Naito so much, but I just don't know how. Like, I feel like he might need to give his knees a break a little bit. And also, I just really want Zack Sabre Jr. to be the champion.
Same.
I love him so much. I just really, as much as I love Shingo, and I do want Shingo to be champion, I really, really, really want it to be Zack Sabre Jr. I want him to win it. But Tsuji also makes a lot of sense, because if you are going with the younger generation, then Tsuji is it. Tsuji is the entire package. I think Tsuji is just, he's phenomenal. He's an excellent wrestler. He's very charismatic. He's got, the character is great. I think I personally would put Zack Sabre Jr. champion before Tsuji. But if they're doing if Tana is serious about what he's talking about with the younger generation, then Tsuji is the person that you do that with, I would say. I think he's the most credible of the younger wrestlers right now, especially now that Yuya is hurt, and Shooter apparently came back too soon, should not probably be wrestling this tournament, because he was injured before, pushed himself to get into this tournament, and then has been struggling with his matches. And so I think at this point, Tsuji is probably, I mean, Ren Narita, obviously, I'm not super into what they're doing with him. I haven't been for a while, and he kind of was regressing a little bit, but Ren has had, I think he's at like 10 points right now.
Yeah,
so it seems like, so
he's
then you have the Tsuji Narita story that you can tell with them at some point. And even if they don't win, that's still a story you could tell. So there's ways that they could go with it. I just from a fan perspective, I just want it to be Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah,
it's past time. He should have been champion before now, and now is the time to do it. You put it on, you take that title from somebody like Naito, and you put it on Zack, who they've had this long history with. Naito, I mean, Zack has dedicated himself to that company. Like, during the pandemic, he stayed in Japan.
I really do. I mean, for me, Zack has earned it. Like, it's time, and he needs to have a run. And even if it's with Naito, and I mean, him and Naito have had beef before, so it's fine. It's not like that's like some unknown thing. He could do it with some of the younger guys, which would be way better if Tana is serious about that. Maybe Tsuji has to chase Zack for it.
I mean, I would not be mad at that either. I would not
because
be mad
that's
at
like the
Suzuki
foreign
having to-
heel versus the local hero thing is all that's like Japanese wrestling. It's
Well, it's
quintessential
basically
Japanese
Kenny
wrestling.
Omega.
Like
It's just what
Kenny
he was
Omega.
with Kenny Omega.
Yep.
And then yeah,
And you can
then
definitely put Zach in that class.
yeah. Oh, Nikki also brings up Naito has issues with his eyes. He does. He has had surgery on them and he says that he still experiences double vision with them, which is
That's not cool because what I don't like about that, not just does that endanger Naito, that endangers his the person he is wrestling. And that is like, I, as someone with a visual impairment, like I can't do that stuff, like certain things, because I could hurt myself or other people.
Yeah.
And that's because the unfortunate, it's a sad fact of having a visual impairment, but the idea is like, it would be grossly irresponsible to do the things that you know, I mean, that's boxers go blind. You can't box anymore. Like,
right.
You go blind in one eye, you're
Anthony,
done.
Like Anthony Ogogo has, like, that's why he missed time this last year. Because he has an eye injury from when he was boxing, and he's already had corrective surgery before and had to have it again, and that's why he was off TV for, like, he's come back and been with Shane Taylor Promotions, but that's why he wasn't on TV. He had to have another procedure to correct.
Well, there was a lot of controversy in UFC with Michael Bisping because he had vision problems that. There are some people that think that he was fighting towards the end there with almost no, like, real good vision.
That's awful.
Really, seriously, you could kill somebody.
You could.
End of story.
Yeah.
You miss a catch, somebody falls on their neck, they're dead. I mean,
yeah.
It's not just about you when you're in the ring anymore. Like, if you want to wrestle yourself, that's fine, but no one wants to see that. And I don't want to see Naito hurt one of these young kids because they're trying to, like...
No, and I don't want Naito to hurt himself even worse.
Well, and also it's like...
He knows,
how do you let him go out with... Like, I know what you're trying to do, but, like, make sure he goes out with dignity, because it'd be a real shame after everything he went through to become the star that he is, if we continue going like this where... I mean, at least Tana took himself out of the thing this year. He was like...
Yes. Even though
my knees need a rest. I'll let Shooter do the high
and then
flows.
apparently this is the reason Ishii is not in the G1
neck because and I think it was neck and back problems with him.
Yeah,
I think he has cervical. I think he has stenosis.
Yeah. So he needed to give it a break. So he's been in AEW because he can wrestle less matches and not have to do, because we've talked about it. G1 is the most grueling tournament there is, and you can't half-ass G1.
It's hot. You're on the train half the time. You're like, it's every single freaking, like, as it was when I woke up this morning, I was like, okay, I'm caught up, and I'm like, let me check, because I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, there's no show today. I'm literally caught up. Oh my god.
No, it's an exciting feeling, especially when you're this far into the tournament.
Well, and then I mean, that was the thing this week when I was watching, because they were talking about where people were in playoffs and stuff, and I was like, oh shit, this thing is heating up now. This is getting
it's crazy.
It's getting to the point where you're gonna have to start watching like the whole show and not just skipping.
Which is we've been doing is just watching the matches.
I've been watching the block matches. I am unapologetic. I'm sorry. I have a life. I unapologetically am only watching the block matches.
We are doing the block matches, but some of the block matches we're only doing stuff that we like. We've watched every Suji match. We've watched every Zach match.
Sometimes I leave things on and walk away. I'm not gonna. I don't need to see Evil and Sonata wrestle again, ever, if possible. I mean, but I know that's a thing there. So.
It's like FTR and the Young Bucks.
It's just, for me, like, Evil, I have no interest in Evil at all. So those matches are tough if it's not against somebody I'm interested in. It's,
Right. Vince's right. These tournaments do take a lot in any company.
They are.
Yeah. And he makes the point, like, ideally, Zach beats Naito before the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, I do want, but I want Zach to have his Tokyo Dome moment. But on the other hand, you have to consider Naito's health and what he can do, or unless you give him this time, but he can't not defend his title. Like, what are you going to do? You can't, if you give him time off, he can't like not defend his title from now until next year. I mean, they could make him like the Young Bucks and be like, hold your title and go home for a while. But his would be for opposite reasons. But yeah,
Yeah, I just think that they're walking a fine line with, and I mean, maybe not as much with Japanese audiences, and I'm sure Steven and Jeremy broke this down much better than I ever could, but it's just like, I would like to see him leave with dignity and not like.
He has to. You can't. It's Naito.
It's getting a little embarrassing. It's like a little.
Well, I think part of it, he's playing into it for his matches.
Well, sure. I mean, of course, because that makes the most sense because he's Naito.
Yeah, that's why the Destino's not working, or it takes him 4 times.
He's the Ignobernale, so whatever. Like,
right. Yes, but yeah, I don't know what they do here, and how they let this play out with Zach, and if they make Zach wait. I mean, ideally, like, I don't want that moment taken away from Zach, but you also can't let Naito get worse either. So,
and he needs to go out right. Because he helped save that company. I mean, it's true.
He's still one of their most popular wrestlers.
People, and he's super popular here.
Especially among Western fans.
I was going to say, he can come around here and do, like, showcase matches if he still wants to wrestle. And everyone here would lose it. I've literally heard someone lose their mind over Naito right behind me.
I would lose my mind over Naito. I love him. I don't care how that
it's like, I obviously, the first time I was losing my mind, and I got to see him wrestle Ibushi when they were still having their, like, try to kill each other matches.
Right. So. Excuse me. Yeah.
Let's see who can almost kill the other one the most.
Those are some of the best matches, though.
They were so great and so, like, oh my, I remember we were watching that, and I was like, I just saw this match, and yet I didn't. And the person sitting in front of me was like, isn't it amazing how they can switch that up every time? He's like, I've watched this match so many times, it never gets old. Like, but it's like, you're always like, please don't kill each other, though.
Right.
We love you, but please don't kill each other.
Yes.
Or kill each other at the same time and go out together, like, sort of.
Right. If you're going to kill each other, you both have to kill each other.
They got to do the Mad Doctrine thing, I think, is really with them.
Yeah.
So, good. Those were good times.
Yeah. So it'll be really interesting to see how this tournament plays out. And then also, speaking of necks and body injuries and things like that, last night during Collision, if you don't watch Collision or have not seen the video of the interview going around, Bryan Danielson had a sit-down interview with Jim Ross yesterday, 15 days out from All In. The main event is Danielson versus Swerve for the World Championship.
2 weeks from today.
And Bryan Danielson's chatting normally, casually says, I'm going to need neck surgery by the end of the year. And Jim Ross said, well, that's certainly news. And everybody, because he was just like,
certainly.
It is certainly news. Because how else do you react to that? 2 weeks before this pay-per-view, you're telling me that the potential champion might need neck surgery, or not might need, needs neck surgery.
Well, the whole thing is kind of like, so this is a winner retire match. This is a winner go home. Loser leaves town. I mean,
right.
It's not
and
quite
this was
that,
before we knew the next thing, but yeah, it's a winner retire. It's a career versus title. I mean,
I'm not saying that they're giving us like the ending. Maybe he will win and it will be all these things and whatever. But the idea here is like, you're almost telegraphing the ending a little bit. And you're essentially saying to me that this whole time that you guys have known maybe that Danielson was retiring at Wembley and you've just kind of been baiting and switching us the entire time. Like, because now it's just like,
yeah.
Don't you just retire him at Wembley and that's it? And he has to get his next.
That's the thing. Like, so
before the end of the year, it's the end of August. This pay-per-view takes place the second to last week of August.
Yeah. So the timing is just weird. Like, why not just wait until after Wembley and have him say, even if he wins the title, just say, hey,
or if he doesn't,
I've seen the doctor. Swerve injured me so much in this match that I have to have
There you
surgery
go.
now. I'm going to relinquish this title. Or even if you don't have the title, Swerve beat me so badly that we have moved up the timetable of my surgery and we have to do it now. Why are you giving away the ending here? Possibly. So there's several ways to look at this, and I will get to Lady B's comment because she is correct about that. Assuming Danielson is telling the truth, which I do think that there are some serious issues.
And he does like to mess with people.
He does. I do think there's some serious neck issues going on here.
I do too.
So assuming,
but
we'll take in this scenario, we'll take this as Danielson does not love to lie, and that Cody taught him how to lie. If he is being upfront and 100% with us, we'll get to Lady B's part in a minute or two in that scenario. If he is telling the truth and being upfront and honest with us, do you have Danielson win the title, hold it until Wrestle Dream, which is in Washington, then drop it, which is like a 2-month title reign? Kind of pointless.
Drop it back to Swerve, though? I mean, because that's his hometown, too?
It's also Darby's hometown. Or Darby's from home state.
Fair enough.
Nick Wayne. I think they're going to put the title on Nick Wayne, but Nick Wayne is from there as well.
Yep.
So do you have him have his final, but whether he drops it to Swerve or somebody who has nothing to do with Washington whatsoever,
right?
Do you have Danielson's farewell? Because I don't think you retire him at Wembley. You retire him in his home state because that's where he had to retire the first time. Have him retire in his home state. Do it at.
Well, and you have a pay-per-view in his home state, so it's not like
do it at Wrestle Dream. So do they have him hold the title for 2 months? Which, sure, I guess there's the argument of it means more to AEW's lineage to have Bryan Danielson as a champion, which, I don't think you really miss out on anything. Danielson is great, but I don't think you have to, it doesn't make your title lineage does not mean less by not having Danielson hold that title. But to me, having Swerve Strickland beat Danielson and to beat him at Wembley is more beneficial for Swerve, and it makes him, because people still question him as a champion. Still, that is definitive to shut people up. But then, of course, they're gonna be like, "Oh, well, you only beat him because Danielson's neck is hanging on by bubble gum and duct tape," which fair, but that's what they'll, of course, because people who don't like Swerve as champion are gonna find.
People are always gonna find their bubble.
They're gonna find their thing, but
you can find it. Echo chambers exist all everywhere.
But I think in this situation, again, if we're taking Danielson at his word, it means it's bigger for Swerve to beat Danielson at Wembley and to retain it. It means more to his title reign because then he has beat Ospreay, he has beat MJF. Then you have him hold that title, and then you have Hangman take that title off him. And you could do that at Full Gear because Full Gear is named for Hangman. That's where I would do it if this is how they are going to play it. But then, as Lady B points out, it's hard to believe anything Danielson said. This man loves to lie. An exact quote. It is an exact quote.
And it's an interesting because it does, your immediate knee-jerk reaction as a longtime fan is, well, you just telegraphed the ending.
Right.
Or you just made us think you telegraphed the ending.
Right. And Swerve quote tweeted the video with a green check mark and said noted. So he's just gonna attack
that neck, man.
He's gonna attack the neck. Which, that I don't have an issue with, but if we are to believe Danielson and to take him at his word, that was not that was a very weird place to have that.
And what a weirdly casual sort of and hey, me who basically had to quit this sport because it could kill me.
Right.
I've come back. I've had these bangers of matches. I'd probably have to have another neck surgery.
And that's the thing.
It's you dropped it. It was I'm talking about I got to pick up eggs at the grocery store.
Well, and then I think that's why Jim Ross was like, Well, you're being so casual about like Jim Ross can't be like, what? I mean, he could. That's what most normal people would do. But then he
he's
kind
at
of
least
just was like,
professional enough to be like, that's news.
yeah, Jim was like, oh, that's important because apparently two people I was watching this, like my editor missed the because he was working, he was working on other stories, but he missed it because it was done in
So
such a
nonchalant.
way. Yeah, it was just Danielson's like, hey, I have this title match coming up. Don't really want a title, but they're kind of forcing me to care about it. Also, probably need to have neck surgery by the end of the year, so there's that. And Jim Ross is like, okay.
Duh.
Well, why are you wrestling for the title if you might need neck surgery by the end of the year? We're 3.5 months away from the end of the year. What do you mean? Can you wrestle at Wrestle Dream? If you win this title, are you immediately going to relinquish it? Are you going to hold it for a little bit and then go have neck surgery? Like, what are we doing here? So, yeah, that's a interesting twist in this. I don't know whether to believe Danielson.
Yeah, I'm with Lady B on this one too, because she's right. He talked about Cody teaching him how to lie. He talked about loving it. He loves playing Carney. Like, he loves his job.
Yeah, and I get it. But and Lady B makes the point. Unfortunately, Brian lying has kind of ruined the story a little bit. Like, he lied by saying multiple times he didn't want to have the title ever, so fans started wanting Heyman and Swerve instead. I did. I was one of those people. I love Danielson, but I think Hangman Swerve is the bigger story. I think that story has more behind it. I feel like that is the story outside of what they're doing with women's wrestling. The biggest story is Hangman versus Swerve. And I get wanting to tease it out and draw it out. But on the other hand, Wembley's your biggest show of the year. And that is a Wembley level match to me. And I don't like I feel like as much as I want Danielson and Swerve, and I know it's going to be a great match, that to me is not a main event match. Well, it is now because you've made it career versus title, but that's not a main event match. Not when you have Mariah and Tony. That should be your main event. And so I feel like, it feels like they keep and I think they know that. So they're like, all right, well, now it's career versus title. Okay, well, now we really want this to be the main event because Danielson might need surgery at the end of the year and he could possibly never wrestle again after this match. Like, it feels like they're just like trying to, like, it feels like they're trying to force fans to want this match more. Yeah. And again, like, I think it's going to be a great match. I love Swerve, love Danielson. The match will be great, but I don't think this was the show to do it on. This was, if you're gonna hold it out,
I don't want to see Swerve lose his title right now. Like, that's not what I want.
That's the other thing. Yeah,
which immediately means that Danielson is retired, and that's a shitty feeling.
Right. And then also, like, I get it. Like, I feel like Hangman can't lose. Like, whenever Hangman and Swerve wrestle, I feel like Hangman has to win the title. So I get holding it off. But it feels, I guess it's a good problem to have because you have multiple good stories. But it feels like most people are like, hey, let's do Hangman and Swerve, Hangman, Swerve, Hangman. Then they teased it a little bit at Blood and Guts, and everybody was like,
Hangman gets involved in the match and makes it messy somehow. You know what I mean?
I could see that happening. I kind of have wondered.
Have it be not so very, like, not a clean win type
but
of
if
deal.
This is Danielson's
that seems
supposed final match, like, they already, AEW and WWE both do way too much of the interference matches. Because AEW and ROH have been doing it a lot lately. They did it at Death Before Dishonor, but they did it at SummerSlam. They had like 3 or 4 and it's too much. Like, it's not necessary. I don't want to feel like I'm watching a House of Torture match.
Yeah.
Every match I'm watching in AEW and WWE and ROH for that matter.
Agreed.
Oh, I moved up. Hey, Astrid, thanks for joining us.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for being here. Astrid is also, she has some great podcasting stuff that she does as well. So you should check her out. And then Lady B, yeah. Now we get Hangman versus JJ. Or Double J. Shameful. Yeah, I am not, they seem to be leaning towards Okada. And then Okada Hangman. And then now it seems like they're doing they're doing Double J, and I don't like that being an all-out match. I'm just not here for it. And even though they have done a good job, like, so, where was it? After Dynamite, there was an incident that took place, and they showed it on, they aired the footage on Twitter, and then they aired it on Rampage. Hangman and Jeff Jarrett were fighting backstage, and then Mariah and Tony were also fighting simultaneously. They got into a fight, and you hear Tony yell, "You slut." Very loudly, which was funny. And then, so some people were like, well, are we getting, they were like, I hope this turns into a mixed tag match where we
right.
where we get Mariah and Hangman and Tony and Jeff Jarrett on the other side of it. And that we get that match, which I would not be.
No, that'd be fine. I'm good with that. No issue there.
I would not be mad at that. And
that would be a lot of fun,
Mina has made her way back. Mina was at ROH tapings. So seems like we're going to do. And Mina is the rumored opponent for Mercedes at Capital Collision. It's not been confirmed, but that's just been a long time rumor. So I suspect that's part of the reason she is back here as well. Astra said, "Oh, the way Tony and Mariah appeared out of nowhere." Yeah, it was really funny, but it worked for some reason. Like, it was, at first I was like, wait, what are we doing? But I was like, yeah, this actually kind of works, because Tony and Mariah are so obsessed with each other and wanting to beat the hell out of each other. They're just, I'm sure they're going to fight.
Well, and they're both like big, like they're stars. They're like movie stars. So the idea is that they can like appear out of nowhere, kind of like in a movie. Like I actually, what's going on between them is so fun. It is really fun.
It is a lot of fun. I really, really like it. And
they are really like hilarious fighting each other.
Yes. And then, yes. Yeah, Astra, the same thing. It took her a moment to get there, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, because at first I was like, wait, we're doing 2 fights? And I was like, well, it kind of makes sense, because Tony and Mariah just want to beat the hell out of each other. That they're just, anytime they're in each other's proximity, they're going to fight, whether they're, and who cares that they don't care if Hangman, they don't care if Hangman and Jeff Jarrett are about to get to a fight.
Like, we don't care about your beef. We have our own beef.
We've been beefing for way longer.
Way longer.
And Hassan says they were promising us that Jeff Jarrett was hired for backstage. Now it seems like he's getting an all-in Wembley match. How did we get here? And you know who doesn't have an all-in match? Emi Sakura. You keep teasing some dumb mate. You're gonna probably put Saraya in a match because she's British, and you're gonna put her in a match, but you can't book Emi Sakura. I know she's been busy in Japan, but I mean, make some time in your schedule to be like, hey, Emmy, can you come back so we can build you into I don't care, put her in 0 hour. I just want the woman to have a match in Wembley. Like, that's all I want. That's all Emmy wants. Just let Emmy have her moment. Give her the 0 hour match. It'll be fine. You can put her up there. Make it. I was about to say the same thing. Make it against Saraya.
There you go.
Yeah, last night Sheeta.
Exactly.
Last night Sheeta said, "I want some real competition." I was like, "Ooh, like Emi Sakura at Wembley."
Agree. Anybody.
Just.
That would be actually, I'd love that match, and I'd love to watch Emmy like just crush her, and then get her "We Are the Champions" song, and have it all just.
I just want it. Just let her have it.
What? Just why? Why, Tony?
It's not going to hurt anything. Why can we not?
Don't you like fun, Tony? Tony Khan, why do you not like fun? Do you not like giving us fun?
Yeah, just like FTR doesn't like fun.
Jesus.
Astra said her video when she was emotional last year, I think it was, I teared up. Oh my God, that video was heart-wrenching.
Yeah, we were very, very distraught here at Powerbombshells for Emmy.
Because we were already really behind Emmy, because we love Emmy here, but then seeing that video on top of it and just knowing how much that moment means to her, like, sure, not everybody can get on any pay-per-view card. Not everybody can get on Wembley, but that's something that means something so much to her, that because why can't you?
Well, and then Lady B made the great point. It's like Double J is getting Irving, and like Double J is getting a match, and she's not.
Right.
And like, you're totally right. He was supposed to be. What happened to? He knows all the people at the venues, except for my peninsula, apparently.
Right. And like Nikki says, we're letting Double J have his moments because of XYZ. Why can't we let Emmy have her moment? Exactly. Why can't we?
It's gonna be a 5.5 hour show anyway. Give her a freaking
like we're
20
already
minute
like,
match.
and this match is gonna be great. Like I'm looking forward to Willow and Ishii as a tag team
Absolutely.
versus Stokely Hathaway.
That is amazing.
That is a 0 hour match, and I am happy for it.
Well, that's a great kickoff for a show.
It'll be a ton of fun. Ishii gets to wrestle in Wembley, which is huge. I love that for him.
That's a lot of fun.
Stokely.
And after seeing the Suzuki match with God damn it, was it Emmy? Or was it? No, it was Munish. No, anyway, there was a match that I'm just losing it right now. But anyway, those matches are so fun. Like the older guys that are in New Japan with that stuff, they have a lot of fun with those matches. They are fun to watch. They are matches.
A lot of fun. So again, and it feels like they're actually building Kip Sabian up to have a match at Wembley so that he's not on commentary. Because last year they're like, "Oh, you're British. Well, we'll just put you on commentary." Or not even commentary. It was the kickoff show. Yeah. It was their pre-show.
Here's a British person. Thank you.
Here's right. They put him and Anthony Ogogo. They're like, "Oh, you're both British.
Here's our token British.
Come hang out. We'll do." And they did that because wait a minute. Last year at the buy-in, they did something, or 0 hour, they did something with Grado and Jeff Jarrett, right?
Yeah, you're right. I think so.
Because they built that thing up because the fans were wanting Grado to be there.
So bad because he was.
And then they did that thing. They did like the altercation. So it wasn't like an actual match or whatever. It was like the altercation.
No, it was like a run-in and a confrontation thing that happened like as the whole show was starting. It was kind of like to kick off the show. There was that big they had a tiff and
so like you can't find something for Emmy to do. Like you see, I'm really glad for Kip. I love Kip. I think Kip is hugely underrated. I like what they're doing with him. So they seem to be building to something. Maybe they do him versus Nick Wayne on 0 hour. Well, no, I guess not because they're doing the triple threat patriarchy match. Never mind. That takes care. Never mind. Maybe they do that at All Out. But so they seem to be hinting at something for Kip
between them
at All In, or maybe he gets involved at All In. Maybe he doesn't have an actual match, but maybe he costs the patriarchy the title or something, or maybe he maybe Nick Wayne is trying to pin somebody and he pulls him off of it and stop. They could do so. Kip could have something to do at Wembley. So give Emmy Sakura.
Maybe he does something where he gets a title shot for the following. Well, not right. Yeah, the following weekend or 2 weeks later.
Casino match. You could put Kip in that casino match and have him wrestle there.
Yeah, they seem like they're setting him up for something because they've actually been talking to him and and they've been him again. Yeah. And then the patriarchy's antagonizing him with the dad thing. So
yes. Right.
If Christian's group is antagonizing him, they must be doing something with him.
Right. And they keep doing it. Yeah, it feels like they're building towards something.
I hope so.
That gets us Here Comes the Big Show.
Yeah.
He is now ROH member. Big Show. He's on the ROH board now. They quit using. They did have the board. It was Stokely and Jerry Lynn. Then they quit kind of doing the board stuff, and then they're like, "Here's Paul White. He's on the." They announced it at 0 hour before Death Before Dishonor, which I don't have a problem with it if they're going to use it, but I just find something for Emmy to do, like literally anything. I don't care. Give her a 7-minute match against. I was going to say Penelope, but I don't know that Penelope is cleared.
Leela
but
Hirsch.
Yeah.
Lady Frost.
I love Lady Frost. Lady Frost rules.
That would be great. That'd be a good fun match.
It would be a good fun match.
That'd be a great match. The two of them would have
I don't care. I hate when he does it, when he does six women matches to get a bunch of women on the card. In this case, if it gets Emmy onto the card, I would love you to just showcase Emmy because Emmy is amazing. But if that's what gets Emmy on the card, it's just doing, especially if you were trying to build ROH up because ROH is going to be part of Wrestling Dynasty, then you should have Emmy. Emmy should be on that show in Japan. So put Emmy, start building her now. What are we doing? Where is Emmy? Quit. Just bring her back. And Nikki said that should add that to my list of complaints for the media call. Tony, where is Emmy Sakura? Why are you not doing hashtag? Why are you not doing hashtag Emmy for Wembley, why are you not? Thank you, Lady B. She
Lady B,
says,
Goodness.
who is
Thank you.
the most likely to interfere in the Brian Swerve match at All In? Hangman or Nigel or both? Bloodline rules? Kidding. Maybe. Happy Sunday.
You're my favorite. Thank you so much. That
He's
actually
man,
it's really
Bloodline
funny.
rules.
That's what I was saying is Hangman, but Nigel wouldn't be too like that'd be kind of funny.
If Danielson needs surgery at some point, I still need Nigel versus Danielson at some point. I wanted
it
at
would be kind of
Wembley.
funny since he does call him Brittle Brian. Like,
he was doing it last night. He was talking trash about it. Like this was before the neck thing. He was talking trash about it.
He could cost him his career. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of funny.
And then when Danielson comes back next year, because he's going to be a part-time wrestler,
right?
They can do the rematch.
They can have a beef at Wembley. He can come
I'm
back and
so
do
mad
his. He'd be like, "You retired me, but I am back to destroy you."
In London, in front of your crowd, your hometown crowd. Oh my God, could you imagine?
That's some serious long-term storytelling, if that's true.
Like I would rather it be like
if
Nigel.
It's Nigel, that would be. I would if it was Nigel. I think that would be kind of cool. If it's Hangman,
like Hangman is the obvious. Hangman's obvious here. Like it's that you would be like you expect unless they explicitly say Hangman is banned from ringside. Like it feels like
I like
Hangman's
the Nigel idea though, because it costs him because he's been
they
saying
can make
that
you.
He's a clam digger and he shouldn't be doing all that stuff anyway and blah blah blah. So.
They're gonna that's why they're doing, and see, they could distract you. Have Hangman do his match with Okada / maybe Jeff Jarrett, probably. But they could do that they could do it like earlier in the match and make you think it's gonna be Hangman, or they do what would be even funnier is if it's the match. No, I don't want it to be. I was gonna say if it's the match before Swerve, but no, it better be Mariah and Tony better be the match before. They better be doing it. But like if you had do Hangman like early in the show, then everybody's just gonna assume that it's gonna be Hangman. It's Nigel. Could you imagine Nigel just like jumping up from so that's the thing. So would Nigel be on commentary? Does he jump up from commentary and interfere, or do we have Nigel like we're thinking, oh, Nigel's taking a break, and Nigel's like in the back somewhere, and then just all of a sudden comes down the ramp to his old ROH music. Cost Danielson the match. Oh my God,
that would be fun. I like that.
It would piss off so many people if Danielson's career ends because Nigel cost him.
But it would be way better than like the obvious Hangman thing, because it would be way less obvious, and it would be something that has been subtly being built, and there's a bunch of us who have wanted it for a long time.
Yes, the match should happen, and he talked about Brie.
Yeah, right. I remember.
So
yeah,
which is why I still can't believe this match is happening. I was like, wait, we did all of this for a year, and this match is not happening. And I thought it was because Nigel wasn't cleared. But Nigel said, I think he said recently that he has a few more matches in him. So
turns out it was all Danielson's fault. He's going to be like, I'm retiring you because you broke your neck and messed up your neck because you were so afraid of me.
Yeah.
So you should be retired permanently.
Yeah. Until next year, when we can we can revisit this at All In next year. At All In 3. Oh my God, that would be hilarious.
Oh, I like it.
Tony would get so much hate for that. I mean, he already gets hate.
Oh, but it would be like hate that I would enjoy watching.
Yeah, he already told me how much hate
he'd get hate. I'd get Schadenfreude. You know, this is good.
I love this idea. Vinkin says Bloodline rules, aka who has the most friends in the locker room to help them win, or the most enemies, and has Nigel. Well, I was just have Nigel. I think Nigel is his only enemy. I don't think Danielson has any other enemies but Nigel. But Nigel hates enough for everybody.
He does. He is pure.
He is the number one.
Pure hatred for it.
He's the number one hater. He is the Kendrick Lamar in this situation. We think Kendrick Lamar is probably number one hater in the world, but Nigel gives him a very good close run for his money.
Nigel's diss tracks wouldn't be as bad or as good. That's probably it.
Probably. Nikki said that she loves the idea of Nigel being the one to cost Danielson. Oh my God, that would be so funny.
It would be a lot of fun. I do like this. We are all.
It would be a talk about a swerve.
Indeed. I think even Swerve would be confused. You'd be like, what's happening here?
Right. I'm the only swerve in this match. What are you talking about? And
Turns out it was Nigel's house the
and
entire
you can
time.
help Swerve retain the title over Danielson with the help of Nigel.
It would be ridiculous, but also kind of cool, and not like ridiculous in an acceptable way that could totally lead to, once he's feeling better, there being a rematch.
Yeah.
I'm in. Hopefully all of us saying that and putting that out there is really like.
Oh, we're definitely talking about this again on the pre-show. We are going to revisit. We are going to revisit this in 2 weeks.
We will have a whole Nigel theory by then. We'll have like that. I'll get my tinfoil back.
There we go.
I'll fix it up, but I'll change the positioning of it. Make it more pointy.
There you go. Make it transmit to the UK.
Oh, I could shape it like one of the guards that
Yeah, you could, like one of the
Buckingham
Queen's
Palace
guards. Yeah. There you
big,
go.
Crazy, except it's tinfoil.
Please wear that on Sunday on the pre-show. On the pre-show.
That might be
you got 2 weeks to make it happen.
Oh, I got plenty of tinfoil too. So
I was gonna say, I believe in you. I believe in your crafting skills.
We buy our tinfoil from Costco stuff. We get the
There you go. See,
the supercharged tinfoil. Sam, you never know when you're really gonna need that hat.
This is true.
I mean, 5G is everywhere.
It is everywhere.
I need to disrupt controlling my brain.
Yeah, so we got 2 weeks to build that hat, and then people are going to tune in, and they're going to be like, what are you talking about? And I'll be like, you missed an amazing conversation by Lady B giving us this incredible theory.
Yes, thank you so much.
That's so funny. And I think, I don't know how we can top it. I think we have to end.
I think that is actually that's a really good place to end. It's so positive, and it's such a fun way to start the week off, and we can all kind of think about that stuff, and with the build coming up for it. And
yes, and then
it is a real bummer that he has to have a neck surgery at all,
right?
And that does suck. Maybe his nonchalance is playing into some other fun thing that could be a Nigel intervention and not something that's so. Because I mean, Lady B's right. He does lie. And I would not put it past him to have some weird, wild.
Maybe Nigel's going to realize he's being played. He was like, you lied to me so that I could not have this match with you. So I'm going to cost you your career.
Mess you up.
So I do want to say we're so bad about doing our plugs. We need James McDaniel here to come do plugs for us.
We really do.
Or Jeremy, because Jeremy is very good at them. So make sure that if you enjoyed what you heard today and you are not already a subscriber, make sure to subscribe to the Fight Game Media Network on YouTube. Also today at 5:30 Eastern, which is going to be in an hour. Been here so long. There's going to be a special edition of the Double G Show. Garrett is, as he says, he is stealing from two gimmicks: the sports reporters and Bill Simmons' sports repotters, and they are calling it the wrestling repotters. And he will be joined by BJ Bethel. They are going to be talking about some more of the. I guess they're going to take more serious topics and talk about it. I don't know what topics they have lined up, so tune in to find out about that. But that will be happening at 5:30 today. There's also, speaking of Strong Style, on Thursday. So if you want some more New Japan news, and maybe we'll have some more information on not Shota, on Yuya by then. And who knows what kind of crazy stuff's going to play out between the next few nights of G1. make sure that you check them out. Thursdays at 5:30. There's the 5-Star Joshi show. And then also wherever you get your podcasts, you can also listen to the Wrap, which is the WWE podcast. There's also the Dynamite show Wednesdays, it's usually 20 minutes after Dynamite ends. So make sure that you check that out. But there's all kinds of good content from some good people here, and that could use your support. So definitely check them out. And also, I forgot to say this at the beginning. If you missed it, download the PBS app and go watch When Giants Walked Here. It was really great. I watched it because I'm in North Carolina. I got to watch it live on PBS at 10 o'clock last Thursday. Excellent podcast. Documentary. They had it was really well done. It was a lot of fun seeing some of the people in there, and I learned a lot about my own state, a lot of wrestling history that I didn't know. So that was really cool. And we want to support Chris and Cliff because they have some other ideas that they want to turn into documentaries. And if this goes well, maybe that will open some more doors for them. So
the app is really easy, and it just streams right to your TV. You can stream it right to your TV.
Yeah. And then if you're outside of the U.S., they are still trying to figure out how international fans can watch this documentary. But if you are anywhere in the United States, you can download the PBS. And like Mel said, you can cast it right to your TV. Nikki said to do yourself a favor and watch it. I have very much enjoyed it. Yeah, it was. They did
and it does work. It does geolocate you to your PBS, but it also lists the program right there. So it's really easy to find. It's like programs from other things new. And it was like right there when I downloaded it that night. It was up, ready. It was like, it had like a countdown for when you could start watching it on the app. So
nice.
Oh, dope. Okay, this is really great.
That's so cool.
Yeah, no, it's a really cool app. I like a lot of PBS stuff anyway, so I'm glad I downloaded it because, again, it just geolocated me to my local one, so that's fine. It's really simple to find the documentary right on the app, and you can stream it straight to your TV. I didn't have, and sometimes our internet can be a real pain in the hole. But
good. I'm glad you were able to do that.
But you know me, I love that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was watching. I was like, you're gonna really enjoy it. And then Steven,
we've just like Bob and I sat for like a whole day one day, and we're like watching documentaries like nonstop.
Awesome.
We go like fiction, nonfiction. We go back and forth.
There you go. Just get your learn on. And then and Stephen Conway had even said like that was right up his alley too, and he was looking forward to seeing it. So please do yourself a favor. It's like an hour long. It's a lot of stuff. If you're a wrestling fan, easy. If you're a wrestling fan, you'll enjoy it. I think if you're into like history of venues and things like that, or just history in general, they do talk about some of the stuff, the background of the building, the venue being built, and the person behind it, and stuff like that. And then there's interviews with wrestlers, and then they talk about how wrestling went away from there for 30 years, and then it was brought back in 2016. And so they talked to C.W. Anderson and Hurricane Helms about that. They show some clips of the match, and then like if you missed the interview with Chris and Cliff when they were on here, a lot of that footage is owned by WWE, so they had to go to the archive, the North Carolina Museum Archives, I think is what they said, and so they got a lot of stuff that has never been seen before because they were just they were given a bunch of negatives. And they were like, if you can print it, if you can scan it, you can use it. And so there's a lot of never before seen footage, which is crazy to think about, that there's all this stuff in there. So they did a really great job with it. So I hope that everybody gets a chance to check it out. And then we'll keep you posted for the international people if that's something you're interested in. Whenever we hear anything about that, we'll make sure to pass that along to you. But of course, follow us on Instagram and on Twitter, and make sure again that you subscribe. And I think that's everything for this week, and we'll be back next week.
Yeah. Thanks everybody so very much.
Thank you.
You guys are so very lovely.
You are. We love you guys.